Come to order. It is Monday, February the 13th, 9 o'clock in the morning, and the Kerr County Commissioners Court is now in session. I want to remind everybody to please turn your phones to silent or off so they don't interrupt the proceedings. And with that, please stand for the prayer and the pledge, which will be led by Commissioner Flores.
Lord, we're so thankful that you're in each of our lives, and we're thankful for the wisdom, and strength, and compassion that you help us with, and we ask that you please help us to be better humans. Lord, we ask that you please help guide this court today. And finally, Lord, please continue to watch after all the first responders and military around the world. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. As we start every regular Commissioner Court meeting, first item on the agenda is public input. This is our opportunity to make sure we hear what the public has to say to us. Is there anybody that, and if you want to talk about a topic that's on the agenda, wait till that agenda item is called. Is there anyone who would like to address the court at this time? Ms. Deininger?
I'm sorry, yes, I really.
Did you take to go to the podium?
It's a little more general than the election integrity, but it really is kind of on that subject. First of all, Susan Deininger, Kerrville, I want to say thank you, commissioners, for the beautiful creche out there in the front with the menorah. It was really lovely. And it gave meaning to seeing some balls and bulbs over on the lot next to us. You could feel some joy for the reason. But I am really moved here in 2018 from California, became immediately involved in your local politics. The first election saw lying, disruptions, boat harvesting, and then I became tried to get involved in the Republican Party, but they really were wanting civility, and I wasn't feeling too civil. So I started the Patriots with a couple of people, and we began watchers groups, and I've watched for four elections through. Went and got training several times, and there are some who are sharper at the election, the voting machines, but I've been watching the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots, and I have tried to, and we have collected concerns about it. Now I understand that it is the commissioners, maybe I'm not correct on this, that have really made Bob Reeves our election commissioner specifically, and that he then is given the power of giving an administrator. My concern is that there have been concerns about the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots, and just about the election integrity here. I would hope that you would support having training for the machines that Commissioner Paces is suggesting later on. We need to have sharp citizens. We are now going to be paying on $51 to $54 million in this city alone for a Keep the Cats and Dogs Alive Forever and a new police and safety plaza. And that's a lot of money. And we need to have civil servants who are conservative, who know the law and are law-abiding, and who are concerned about us. And that'll only be gotten through elections. And our election integrity must be protected and confirmed. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move on to commissioners' comments. Precinct 1.
No burn ban, but looking real hard at putting it back on. It's very dry out there, even when we have a little bit of moisture. It doesn't take much to dry out. So be very careful, and please, if you're considering burning, check the wind forecast. That's the killer when it comes to brush fires and things getting away from us. Otherwise, been real busy with the East Kerr EDAP project, the Center Point sewer system. And I'm going to be honest, I'm receiving a lot of complaints about the condition of the roads. And we're doing all we can. we have issued a notice of defective works to Kerr, that they're starting to take action, and I've noticed that they have been out on stone lead doing some repairs. So I asked the public to bear with us. We're on top of it, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the agenda today. So that's really all I have.
Three.
Yeah, let me add one thing that Mr. Page said, about burn ban or burning. The burn ban is not the final word on it. You also have to look at state law. And if our winds are over about 15 miles an hour, it's against state law to burn. So the fact of whether there's a burn ban or not is irrelevant if the winds are strong. And strong, I mean, I think it's 60. But anyway, either way, it's not a real strong wind, and it's also illegal to burn. It's also illegal to light a fire right before sundown. The fire, in fact, has to be completely out by dark. So there's a lot of things that are kind of go with burning. I think so many people in the community just look at the burn ban, okay, burn ban's off so I can burn. That's not quite right. So remember that state law dictates.
And that wind changes quickly.
Right. That's all I have.
Well, we have a full agenda, I wasn't gonna say much, but I'm gonna jump on what y'all said as well. A little common sense goes a long way when you're talking about, starting fires and like that. Another thing, a common courtesy is to call the sheriff's department, let them know that you're gonna be starting a fire. Then call your VFD in your area, give people a heads up, so they don't have false runs, you know, they know what's going on. That's all I got.
That's all your words of wisdom.
I gotta do it again?
Take two.
Is it working?
No light on.
Is it unplugged?
Hold for technical difficulties.
There is something unplugged right here. That little-
They're here again, they're just not getting out of here. So they're here again.
So project.
Project.
It looks like our microphone here at the bench is out, so we'll talk a little louder.
We're gonna get rolling. I know we got kids that wanna get back to school.
Follow up on the commissioner's comments, two things that I would share with you. On DCARA, we are meeting with them tomorrow afternoon, so that is being pursued and followed up on. But the other thing is that the juvenile probation department and I had a discussion with Rites of Passage, who at one point was looking to lease our juvenile detention facility, bring it back up to code. Those conversations have been renewed, and hopefully we'll be bringing proposals to the court within a week or two. So, with that, let's go ahead and move on to the consideration agenda. Item number 1, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a proclamation designating the week of February 18 to 25 of this year as National FFA Week. I got Commissioner Harris here, Tammy Mitchell here.
Tammy's here. Tammy, you wanna say anything about it? Go to the podium and we brought it up, brought it to our attention, so.
So I have a few of my officers here. National FFA Week is celebrated across the country. We do different community service projects. A few of our officers will be reading to elementary students that week, and we're going to be renewing or restoring our FFA sign as we're coming into town. FFA does all kinds of different leadership and career development events that prepare kids for their future, and also teaches them, just life skills in general. So it's not just all stock show. It's very much a leadership organization. It's the largest student-led organization in the country, so we're really proud to be an FFA.
We are too. And let me read the proclamation that we're gonna do.
Speak up so they can hear you.
Okay. I'm gonna do the first whereas. Whereas FFA and agriculture education provide a strong foundation for the youth of America and the future of food, fiber, and natural resources systems. And FFA promotes premier leadership, personal growth, and career success among its members. And agriculture education and FFA ensure a steady supply of young professionals to meet the growing need in the science, business, and technology of agriculture. And the FFA motto, learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, gives direction and purpose to these students who take an active role in succeeding in agriculture education. And FFA promotes citizenship, volunteerism, patriotism, and cooperation. Therefore, I do hereby designate the week of February 18th through the 25th, 2023 as National FFA Week. If we can get these students to come up here, let's get a picture. Y'all. Yeah, of course.
What's your name? Candy Mitchell?
Good. Once again, each one of you go to the podium.
Yeah, each one you go to the podium first and state your name and your high school. Yeah, go up there and then we'll take a picture. That way you can be on camera. Show them, Sheriff, show them where to get.
What do you want them at? Oh, sorry.
We want each one to introduce.
Oh, okay, yeah, come right here. Come right here, one at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on up there, girl, and then we'll get you.
Hi, I'm Christian Stahl. I'm the president of Tybee FFA. I show pigs and livestock judging and all that stuff.
Hi, I'm Gracelyn Garrett, and I'm president of Centerpoint FFA.
Hi, I'm Maria Diaz, and I'm vice president of Centerpoint FFA. Hi, I'm Daphne Lopez, and I'm treasurer from Centerpoint FFA.
Okay, now gather up here with Mr. Harris. For those of you that don't know, he's a retired ag teacher out of Naples.
Good.
I'm worn out, actually.
Worn out?
I can get it.
Come on, get up here. We'll get you a picture. This is one of my former students.
Yes.
I want to say that Ingram FFA couldn't be here today. They're on the road someplace.
San Antonio.
San Antonio. And I will tell you that I'll speak up for one of their students last week. I put on a wildlife contest and she got a $3,000 scholarship. The next day she went to San Antonio and got a $10,000 scholarship.
Yeah.
So it's actually Caitlin's cousin. So Maggie Rector, let's give a shout out for her. So they're all three Thank you, Maggie.
Congratulations. Moving on the agenda, we're going to pass item 1.2, we go to 1.3. Sheriff, we'll bring in the,
Yes, yes.
oh, yeah, we'll take a motion.
Take a motion to approve the
Got a motion and a second to approve the resolution for FFA week. Any discussion?
Nice boots, Jamie.
Make the motion on the second.
Motion, second. 1.3, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept the final report from the Capital Improvement Planning Committee and to recognize the members for their dedicated service and resolve the committee. Got them in here?
One more. There we go.
More.
Okay. Chris Hughes.
All right. Good morning. Thank you. So for the record, Chris Hughes, 550 Indian Creek Road in Ingram, representing the court-appointed Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Also we have Bobby Templeton, Pete Calderon, Brenda Hughes, still no relation. And Fred Henneke could not be here, so he may come in late. But anyway, wanted to present our final report and assessment on county infrastructure needs. So we come before you today for the 11th and final time as your court-appointed Capital Improvements Planning Committee. When you asked us to participate in this committee 3 years ago, we had no idea about the severity of the county's facility issues, nor how deeply we would get involved. We want to thank you for the opportunity to serve our county through your instructions to identify high-priority infrastructure issues and to provide you recommendations on how to resolve these issues. During the 3 years of our work, the sitting court voted unanimously 6 times in support of the proposed projects, their scope, and the budgets, demonstrating a shared acknowledgement of the issues and the need to fix them. We celebrate the community's support of the new animal shelter, and we look forward to seeing that project come to fruition. However, we're disappointed with the final results overall, with only one of the 3 bonds passing. It was always going to be a tough ask of the county voters. Unfortunately, it was made tougher by poor economic headwinds, active opposition from some on this court, and a renewal of county-city bickering that alienated many of the potential supporters. The electorate has decided to remove bonds as a financing option, and we respect that decision. However, we would like to call attention to this court that even though the recommendations provided were rejected, the problems you tasked us to identify still remain. This county is legally obligated under a state mandate to provide an expanded jury room for the county court at law. This committee's recommendation included moving the tax assessor collector's office to 600 Old Garrett, which we think provided a lot of benefits for the courthouse and the citizens. This is an issue that needs a solution. This county is still legally obligated to provide an annex in Precinct 4. We reiterate that the Ingram ISD lease is a temporary solution, available to the county for only 2 to 3 years maximum. That time is going to go by very quickly. So a new solution needs to be developed immediately to address this issue. The document and asset storage issue remains one of the least exciting but still very pressing concerns to be addressed. This court must develop real and executable solutions to meet the storage statutes set before it. One of the duties of this court is to protect the health and welfare of county citizens. The conditions and safety issues present at the Hill Country Youth Event Center fail to meet this responsibility. This court's awareness and continued inaction on this issue make you, and ultimately us taxpayers, liable for gross negligence for any safety incident that may occur there. A new solution needs to be developed to address this issue. Regarding safety, we also wish to remind you of security enhancements that need to be made to this courthouse for your own protection and the citizens who use it. The judicial actions held here are natural sources of stress and security risks. Additionally, we are living in a time of heightened political tension, exacerbated by political extremists. We regularly hear of politically motivated or attention-seeking acts of violence. Locally, a man was arrested in December for sending an email stating, quote, "I could care less if someone shows up at a council meeting with an AK-47 or equivalent, and I could care less about the possibility of any open caskets." And Judge Kelly was one of the people that received this letter. We are all vulnerable right now. It would be naive to believe that real security risks do not exist here. This is a serious issue that needs a new solution. Commissioner Paces, you've agreed that these core issues we just mentioned need resolution, though you campaigned against the bonds with your own alternative solutions. We urge and encourage you to begin implementing your ideas. And we sincerely wish you success in those endeavors, because if you succeed, then we will all benefit. Finally, only this court has the authority to resolve these very real issues. As your constituents, we hold commissioners accountable to take appropriate action. Solutions are required legally, for public safety, and to place this county on a positive path forward to better meet the future challenges we will face together. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve and to share our vision for our home county with you.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept their final report and discharge them of any further responsibility required to tackle improvement. Second. Got a motion second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to thank the committee. I think y'all did the amount of work y'all put in is unbelievable. You spent a lot of time on it, a lot more than any of us thought. You really went into all of the issues, came up with recommendations, and that's what you were asked to do. So you actually exactly did what we asked you to do, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Without a doubt, I appreciate each and every one of you. About 2 of the 4 of y'all standing there are from Precinct 4, and I appreciate y'all. Because it went well beyond what we ever expected. We never thought it'd take this long, this many meetings, but y'all tackled it and dug in. My gosh, I'm just glad we didn't have to buy film for Brenda. I mean, no, it's one, y'all did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just make a statement that there are absolutely some of your recommendations that I did agree with, or do agree with. Unfortunately, there were a number of things that I didn't agree with, particularly in light of the current economic situation. You know, inflation at a 40-year high. We're in a recession, in my opinion, and people are hurting. So to me, the ask was too great. There were too many things that were nice to haves and not critical needs. Had we focused on critical needs, I believe it all would have passed. So I'll leave it at that, or maybe even add, you know, hey, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And that's kind of what happened with those 2 bonds that were defeated. The ask was too great.
One thing that was left out is that the city had recently had a bond election, and people can only tolerate so much for so long. That was left out of your list of things that were against this bond, these bonds. So I would throw that in there too. You can only take so much in any given year, and it was not a good year for this. It didn't start off that way. It just worked out. The timing was really bad.
Timing was huge.
Let me say a few remarks. 2 of the members of this committee I did not know when we started. For the public that doesn't know how the committee was formed, each commissioner appointed one from their precinct, and I appointed one at large, and that's how we had 5. 4 commissioners and the judge. And it was interesting getting to know one another. And it wasn't like we didn't have ample opportunity. We met once a month for 3 years, plus special meetings. And then working with the Political Action Committee to try to get the bond passed. And through these years, I've become very close to these people, all of them. And I have the utmost respect for each and every one of them. And the ones that I didn't know before we started, I've gotten to be good friends with. And let me tell you, they are the salt of the earth. The one thing that I agree with that I think needed to be brought to the public's attention is that this committee did not charge off and do something on their own and then take it to the public, and the public couldn't swallow the pill that they were trying to serve. That's not what happened. They came to this court each and every stage of the way. And they reported, and they asked for permissions and blessings. They debated whether or not this was the proper solution or not. It was thoroughly discussed. It was not done haphazardly. It was done very thoroughly and completely. And for that, I believe that their report serves as a roadmap to where we have to go. We're not done. We know we have a dangerous facility, and we're letting people use it. And I, for one, think that we may need to consider closing down the indoor youth event centers, the indoor arena. We've got to do something, or just use it for storage. But it's dangerous for the public. And when you know you have a dangerous condition and you don't address it, then you're liable for gross negligence. That much is true. And so here we sit, exposed to liabilities that could have been avoided. Now, with that, I'm going to miss you guys, but I really salute you for what you've done and with the integrity with which you have handled the decision of the people. People have said no, that means no. But the problems don't go away. And it is my commitment to continue to bring before this court each and every one of these problems on a regular basis for someone to have the creativity to find solutions and to build a coalition so that the people can be protected. So if there are any other Discussion? Then those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you are honorably discharged.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 1.4, to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the contract with architect Peter Lewis for professional design services for the Kerr County Animal Services Facility. Mr. Letts.
Yes, put this on the agenda. This is the one bond issue that did pass. We had an agreement with Peter Lewis to kind of do preliminary work, which he did very well. But we're at the point that we need to enter into a contract. And he's prepared a contract reported over to us, which is attached. That's really my only comment. I think that I think going with Peter on this facility will save us money because he has done so much of the research already on it, and it doesn't make sense in my mind to go on to hire a different architect for that bid. I think it'd be a waste of time. Peter's invested a lot in this. He has all the preliminary drawings. He's got the staff and then the public. That's the direction we ought to go. And I'll make motion to approve the contract with Peter Lewis.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
All the question, make sure is that.
I've reviewed, yes, thank you.
The discussion is that considered a continuing part of the service company, center company? So this is new, and this stays under the budget for putting it out for bid.
No, it's professional services.
Professional services, that's why I asked about this.
Not required.
Because he's always provided that.
Yeah, he was under a contract, and he still is under a contract to provide, answer questions, do preliminary.
I just want to make sure.
So this is the professional service, and we're not required to go for bid.
And let me clarify. I contacted Peter Lewis and asked for a standard AIA contract because this is a multi-million-dollar project and we need to know what the rules are. Standard contracts, everybody that does construction law knows what those rules are. The contract we have with the consulting services is, 3-4 pages long, and it does not address all the intricacies of construction plans. And I want to just have standard. I don't want any bells and whistles, I don't want anything out of the ordinary, so that we all know exactly how to deal with something going forward with this project. Any other discussion? In favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.5. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept the donation from Justin McClure with Jam Broadcasting for time, materials, and equipment to paint the light poles and flagpole in the courthouse grounds.
Yes, sir. Justin McClure with Jam Broadcasting contacted me by email and kind of went from there and discussed what would be doing, and he stated he would like to very much to paint the flagpoles, light pole. He's going to be paying for the paint, 5-star rental, maybe donating some equipment like the lift, but if not, they'll get a lift for the flagpole. So the 18th, next weekend, if this is accepted, they would be able to start on that, or this next weekend, to start taking care of the flagpoles.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we accept this donation. We've got a motion and a second. And the reason I'm making the motion is he contacted me about it, and I passed it on to Shane. We didn't do anything. Then he followed up on it. And he wants to help us take flagpole and light poles out there. And if you haven't looked at it, that's kind of a scary job. But he's offered to do it, and I can't imagine any reason why we wouldn't accept it.
Do they only need to be painted, Shane? Does it need to be sandblasted or anything?
The light poles are going to be sandblasted for sure. They definitely need to be sandblasted, and yes, and also maybe the flagpole. I don't know. Yeah, we may just sand that. I will be here, or me or one more staff on those weekends to assist. But Yeah, the light poles will be sandblasted. The flagpole, we may just sand that. Because trying to get a sandblaster up there in a lift, 25 feet in the air is going to be a little difficult. So
And so what about the cleanup part?
we're going to have tarps and stuff down again because we are using a sandblaster. We're just going to try to put tarps and try to catch as much of the sand as we can. But like again, we'll be up here and what we don't catch, we're going to use a blower and get rid of it.
I guess my only concern is, are they gonna hire a contractor that'll have appropriate insurance? The liability is the biggest concern here. I'm all for accepting this donation. But are we clear that we're adequately protected since we've already acknowledged it's hazardous work?
That we didn't discuss it, whether he had insurance or not, so.
I want to say pending that everybody's protected as part of the motion. We can amend it that way.
Okay.
Secure that. Doesn't that make sense?
Confirm insurance coverage availability, subject to insurance coverage availability. I made my motion. Second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And believe it or not, we just got to 9:31. We'll call the time items at 9:30. 1.6, consider discuss, take appropriate action on the request to use the courthouse grounds for Memorial Day. Ms. Sanchez.
Good morning. So today's this year's Memorial Day event will be May 29th, requesting the use of the courthouse grounds with electricity, the IT department so they could record it, and then the courthouse so we could use the restrooms and have them open. Also, we are way ahead schedule this year, so I'm just going to give you an update. Jeff Harris will be our MC this year. Posting the colors will be Civil Air Patrol. Our guest speaker will be General Robert Walter, who's retired Army. Colonel Eichner, retired Colonel Eichner, will play taps. Reading of the names, we're going to have a Marine veteran, Ryan Halley. Bagpipes will be played, and we will hand out flags as well as poppies this year.
Utilize the courthouse for restrooms?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A deputy would be here. Yes, sir.
I move for approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve the Memorial Day event, use of the courthouse grounds. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Del Toro and Gary Miller here, and Vicki. Item 1.7, consider discuss and take appropriate action to accept the racial profiling report from 216th District Attorney's Office.
Good morning.
You don't know this is routine.
Yes, it is. Just want to say it's part of our policy in the 216th DA's office that we don't make traffic stops. So the report we have to do annually that's required to take hold, we file an exception. So that should be what is in front of you right now. It's our exemption report.
Got a motion and a second to approve the racial profiling report of the 216th District Attorney's Office. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.8, consider discuss and take appropriate action to accept the racial profiling report from Constable Precinct 3.
If we could just accept it, all of the
Yes, heard today. Move to accept the report. Second.
Got a motion and a second to accept the racial profiling report from Constable Precinct 3. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 1.9, consider discuss and take appropriate action to accept the racial profiling report from Constable Precinct 1.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. There'll be one more on the report later, but it's time later, so. Item 1.10, consider discuss and take appropriate action to submit an application to the Texas Division of Emergency Management to request an FY 2024 hazardous materials commodity flow study.
I am here for Deb Thomas. He was not able to be here today, and so basically what this is, it's a application to be a participant in a flow study for hazardous or biological waste that could flow through Texas counties. We have the I-10 corridor here that people go through, so he's applying to be our county to be a participant in the emergency management planning. And if accepted, then we will participate in their flow study.
So the commodities part of that is that they're transporting.
Anything rail or highway that would come through our county that's hazardous, they're doing a study all over Texas, and so counties are applying to be a part of that study in their area, and so we are applying to be a part of the study. And if accepted, this will begin sometime, I believe, we'll know in March as to when those applications are awarded to be a part of it, and there is no match or financial responsibility to the county.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve the TDOT hazardous material commodity flow study grant application. Got a motion and a second? Good. For those of you that don't remember when we had the big ice storm in 21, a traffic came to a stop on I-10. That hazardous material set there in Kerr County, and we had to babysit it until we could finally get that freeway open back up and have it move through. So this is something that of vital importance to Kerr County. Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 1.11, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to partner with the city of Kerrville to host a collection event for household hazardous waste at the Hill Country Youth Event Center on April 22, 2023. Mr. Harris.
Yes, this is something we've been doing with, before I even got here, in conjunction with the city, and it's well received. I mean, cars line up and get rid of their paint, oil, and all other kinds of things, tires and stuff at this time, so I move for approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve the hazardous waste material event in April. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, all of the timed items at 10 o'clock, we're going to move past because we're not 10 o'clock yet. So I'll move down to item 118. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to authorize copies of the Kerr County subdivision and manufactured home rental community regulations be made for staff and available to sell to the public. Mr. Letts.
I put this on the agenda is that we have new rules and they're online, but we generally have hard copies, at least for members of the court, Charlie and others. And to me, it's a lot easier to go through them, and I think we should make copies available to the public to purchase, whatever our cost is. I mean, I think maybe we should get 20, 25 maybe, something like that, and whatever the cost is passed on to the public and let it be available. And if the court doesn't want to do it, well, I'll just try and get mine done because I want a hard copy.
Yeah, I'm one of those little fogies that need to have a hard copy that you can see. So
I think we'll probably need more than 25.
Do you have any idea what the cost is per copy
No,
in order to pass it on to make a charge to the public?
we'd have to.
We'll find out.
We'll find out when we go out to find, you know.
Okay.
Are we talking about having them bound or anything?
I don't know anything bad. They can be a notebook as far as I care. I just think that the last ones were in a notebook.
Yeah.
And just hole punched and dividers put in.
Doesn't have to be fancy.
Doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be usable. And I think the hole punch is a good option because we will be adding those additional sheets that we've already added some.
We're going to do that at 10 o'clock.
So, there could be a notebook and send it out to get copies made, hole punch, and put in notebooks with cover sheet. I mean, it can be pretty simple. It just seems that I would like a copy, and I would suspect other people would as well.
I think it's a good idea.
I do too. Can we just say, Charlie's over here, do you think it's a good idea?
It's a great idea, and we can get with Office Max and put something together and let you know what it costs.
How many pages? You have a hard copy right now, don't you, Charlie?
Yes, sir. I think we're like 140 pages, something like that, with all the exhibits and everything in the back. It's somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact number. But yeah. But we can do double-sided, and cut down on the amount of paper, give it Office Max, put something together for you.
Okay. Charlie?
Yes, sir. I knew I got here too early.
You think, would members of the public want to purchase a copy, or are they just going to run their own? What do you think? Should we just get?
We should have some available for them to buy for a nominal fee.
Yeah, so like
Yeah, just pass along the cost, whatever it is. So.
25 copies enough, 50 copies?
I think so. I think that's a good start.
25?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, you know, and if we get too many, I mean, a year from now, somebody will step up with one. It's not like they're all going to go out the door at the same time, and they're not going to go to waste.
Yeah.
What's the number? You said 25? Yes, it's 25.
Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion we authorize Road and Bridge to
Or engineering. I think I've got some money in my budget for this.
engineering to produce 25 copies of subdivision rules in some down version.
Second that?
I'll second
Got a motion and a second. And now, technically, we should have had a motion and a second before we start talking about it. But it's all good.
It's just that then it creates an obligation to keep it updated as we amend it, to add pages, at least the 475.
Well, we can do that in-house, like you
No,
take it down.
Something
Oh.
to keep in mind.
And is this motion, we didn't set a price, depending on what it
Whatever
does
the
cost?
cost is, pass the cost on per unit.
Actually,
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I'm trying to make anything off of it.
okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.19, consider discuss and take appropriate action to authorize repair of damaged roads due to the East Kerr County Center Point wastewater sewer project. Commissioner Basis.
Well, Commissioner, let's actually put it on, but, you know, as I mentioned in my opening, it's a serious issue. We have had numerous meetings where we discussed the very poor condition of many of the roads in the Center Point area as a result of the sewer project. And the prime contractor, at least for phase 2, is Kerr, and they have basically been deficient in adhering to the contract terms and making temporary repairs at least on time. So a notice of defective work has already been issued by Metrotech, which is the project management engineering firm. And I am pleased that Kerr has been doing some work. Of course, right now it's very much weather dependent, but we do need to keep all the pressure on that we can to get them to adhere to their contract terms, which they accepted. So this is the first step. We may want to consider some other action, depending on how things progress in the next week or so.
In addition to that, and I put this on the agenda 2 weeks ago, at which point things have progressed since then. So, at the same time, I'd almost like to get authority granted to, maybe Commissioner Paces and I, to continue down the road and talk to the county attorney if it doesn't get fixed. I mean, I hate waiting 2 weeks all the time.
Yeah.
It's at a point in, I'd like to kind of authorize or ask Heather to look at the process as to how we do it, whether we file against their bond, if that's the process, or exactly how we do it. I know Don's Burger is looking at it, and Charlie's been talking to Don as well.
What's the issue then?
The issue is they're not fixing, they're not following, even the fixing they're doing now is not what they're required to do under the contract.
So it's when the work orders turn in and the time lapse, or they're not?
They're not doing it.
That's right.
They're required to put 12 inches,
8.
8 inches of cold mix in all these cuts. They're throwing a little bit in, and it's popping out as soon as someone drives over, especially when it's got the rain.
So they're breaching contract.
Yeah, they're a breach of contract, but it's a matter of, it's a long process And we wanna be able to move down the road. I mean, I don't know if Mr. Paces and myself both were at the point that I'm tired of getting phone calls, she's tired of getting phone calls. I want the roads fixed the way they are for the contract. And whatever we need to do to enable that, to make that happen, that's what I want.
Now, is it temporary because they gotta go back to it and all, or is it?
Yes. No.
Okay, so there's the issue I'm guessing. The cost associated with doing it right, when you gotta come back and dig it up again, that, as a businessman, you're saying, well,
It's not that they have to dig it up again. In most cases, it's not that they have to dig it up again, it's that they have to come in and do a final repair. The contractor, for cost reasons, would prefer to mobilize that third-party subcontractor one time to do all the final road repairs.
well, my nature of the question
And of course-
is, have they finished what's in the ground?
In a lot of these areas, they.
Most areas, yeah, they'll get pretty close
Okay,
to
so
it.
if they haven't finished what's in the ground, it would make sense that you don't wanna put your final road on top of it. But if they're just not doing on the finished work, then they're in breach of contract on that. On the other one, it'd be a little fuzzy out there.
No, it's not fuzzy, it's, they're required under the contract, if they cut the road, they gotta fill it with 8 inches of
Bulkhead material.
And we had a meeting last week and we explored the contract with Tetra Tech. And there are two areas of the contract, section 14, general terms and conditions, and also section 16, that give us room to maneuver here. You know, I think, again, we'll have that discussion with Judge Kelly tomorrow afternoon, and we'll discuss the pros and cons of either action. There is the possibility that Road and Bridge could take this over and complete it on their own if the county chooses to do that.
Or
I'm not saying that's what we
Or
want to do
hire
right now.
somebody.
Or hire an outside contractor.
Exactly.
And then
You
you
tell them
follow
we're
that.
gonna hire somebody outside, and we're gonna bill you for it.
Right.
That's what we're looking at? That's what we're
That's
going
one
for?
possibility.
Yeah, and people realize there's gonna be inconveniences, but they're set up.
And this is creating liability. I mean, people's vehicles are being torn up. And, you know, they're further degrading our roads where there wasn't work done because people are driving on the edges because they're trying to avoid some of these potholes and problem areas. And that's causing further damage to our roads where they weren't damaged.
I'd just like to add that what has taken place to date in the last few weeks is that our project engineer, who's the design engineer, Tetra Tech Engineering, Don Berger, has sent notification that there are some deficiencies, and that has already started to get the ball rolling, so to speak, so that if we're really in a bind and for some reason we need to run out there and go fix some roads because we just can't wait for the contractor, we can. The other thing, I think that if you all were to give some head nods, the contract already has in there that that I, as the county engineer, have the authority to send a letter to one of their representatives from DGERA and start making some requests or some demands. I think what we don't like to do is to send off a letter like that without the court having some consensus that that's okay to do. I think if the court today said, you know, we're at a point where, you know, if Commissioner Letts or Commissioner Paces says, Charlie, you need to send that letter today, we would like for the rest of the court to say that that's okay to do that. I think that's what we're really looking for. Like Commissioner Letts said, we don't want to wait another 2 weeks before we have another Commissioners Court meeting or call a special meeting to get a bigger ball rolling than the small one that's rolling right now.
So does this have to be a certified letter, or you,
I would send it certified.
which slows things down?
Yeah. Oh, I'd send both. I'd send it multiple ways: email, regular mail, and certified. But the certified so that we've got it in the record.
In all fairness, let me put this in perspective. This is a contract with contractual obligations that are not being fulfilled. And the contract provides for a notice of default in order to try to get it fixed. You may recall a couple of years ago, they sent us a notice terminating the whole contract because we breached the contract for not being able to timely pay them. And I called them in, and I set them down, and I told them I didn't want to ever receive another notice of default, a notice of termination, without sitting down and talking about it. And we have faithfully sat and discussed, what, Charlie? 9, 10 items?
Yes, sir.
10, 12 items, to keep them on track. And part of the problem is that if they default and we terminate them, they have default. That's why they got sent the notice of defective work. But if they walk the job, then we've got to figure out a way to fix it. And that's a tightrope to walk. We're getting close to the end. As an old construction litigator, I'll tell you, that's where the rubber meets the road on a project. And I don't know, and we do have it bonded, so that we do have the money available to fix it if we need to. But I want to approach this, personally, I've served as what? A mediator, pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Try to keep everybody at the table, listen to their complaints, and see if we can find solutions. They've been cooperative, they've tried. This is at a critical juncture that needs to be addressed. That's why we have the meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And so I suppose what we're authorizing, are we authorizing negotiations with them, or we're authorizing that we're actually going to repair it ourselves? Well, because they'll work the job if we terminate it.
I don't want to terminate it. I want to, but I want to, they're using a subcontractor for this portion. And their subcontractor has lots of excuses and lots of false promises. I mean, terminating the contract, I agree, is the worst thing to do. We don't want to do that. What I would do.
We want to avoid that.
Yeah, we want to avoid that. To me, the issue would be if their subcontractor can't do it, then we need to hire another contractor to make the repairs. And it'll be paid out of the contract. That's the solution that I see.
And section 14 of the contract actually gives us the right not to terminate the contract, but to take over a certain scope of work within the contract. So I think that's probably the most likely route that we would go. We can continue to do the work on the sewer mains and connections, but if we wanted to do something, it would be taking over the scope that repairs the roads.
And they would probably be happy with that. Because it's their subcontractor that happens.
They wouldn't be happy about the unknown, how much
The
money it
cost.
would cost and what we would claw back.
That's the, anyway, so, Mr. Pace and I, we're in agreement as where we'd like to go worst case, and that's the worst case, is us, use that provision of the contract. My question is how do we keep it moving? If it's authorized Mr. Pace's guy, authorized the county judge, whatever, Charlie, I just want to make sure that roads start getting repaired on a timely basis per the contract.
So your motion is?
There's another, in a lot of places, they lay down the heavy metal over those dents in the road, so they could do that, and then nobody has to repair it immediately. If you can talk to them about that, talking about that, that's gonna be a headache if you report that too. But what you're trying to do is expedite, and there's not really a way to do that right here.
We could exercise the clauses of the contract, but that clause may cause other problems, and I gotta acknowledge that. So I would say, I would probably, because there is a meeting tomorrow, to wait to put this on our next agenda and see if we can get further down the road, and at that next meeting, I think we will have a more definitive answer what direction.
Well, let me try my hand at the motion. I move that we authorize Commissioner Pace's, Matt's, and myself to negotiate with the contractor, Kerr, which we have scheduled for tomorrow. And
Can't do three, you only do two.
Say what?
You only do two.
I'll do it, so just you and I. You're not going.
You got it.
Okay. But authorizes to negotiate with them regarding potential solutions to bring back to the school. If you're going to explore that and be able to commit to them what we'll recommend back to the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
That people be patient. It's a headache when the roads are torn up, but you can see that we're working on it and trying to get it fixed. You can only do what you can do.
They're patient, patients in September. Yeah, exactly.
But you can see what the problems are. I mean, it does help when you understand what the issue is.
Right. But the worst thing that can happen to us is quit talking.
Right, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back to 2 o'clock. Come back to order. Turn now to the 10 o'clock docket, time docket. The first item is 1.12, which is a public hearing, which proposed changes, additions, and or clarifications to Kerr County subdivision and manufactured home rental community regulations. Mr. Hastings is here. It's a public hearing. Is there anybody that wants to address the court on our new subdivision rules, the revised subdivision rules? Very well, then I will adjourn that meeting and we'll move on to the next timed item, which is 1.13. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to adopt addendums 1, 2, and 3 to Kerr County subdivision and manufactured home rental community regulations. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Judge. Addendum number 1 will add the word folded into page 43, 6.02B. The developer shall submit 8 folded prints. It's also on page 44, 6.03, same thing, 8 folded prints. Page 45, 6.03.C.3, 8 folded copies. Page 84, Appendix H, number 6, submit 8 folded copies. The word folded is being added into each one of these. And page 106, Exhibit R, under the survey requirements, Roman numeral 8, 8 folded copies instead of 6 copies. It'd be 8 folded copies. These are little things that are going to make life a lot easier for everybody. Addendum number 2 is to add the word local on page 52.6.08.A, statutory and local plat exceptions. We do have a local plat exception that the court adopted in 2016. It was omitted erroneously in the subdivision regulations. So on page 54, here's how that reads. We'd like to add in this entire, what I'm about to read, 6.08.A in parentheses 9, adjacent property transfer. The county need not require the owner of a tract of land located outside the limits of a municipality who divides the tract into 2 or more parts to have a plat of the subdivision prepared if A, one part is to be retained by the owner and another part or parts are transferred to an adjacent landowner, and B, no part or parts of either tract are in an existing platted subdivision, and C, the number of tracts does not increase, and D, the owner does not lay out a part of the tract described by section 232.001A3 of the Texas Local Government Code. We're asking to add that entire section in. That's addendum number 2. And addendum number 3 is to change the size of the survey to 24 inches by 36 inches. It's on page 106, Exhibit R, under surveyor requirements. Right now it says to prepare a reproducible mylar that's 21 inches by 26 inches. This is for the manufactured housing rental community regulations. There is a requirement to turn in a development plan, and that is a very odd size. Nobody uses that anymore. We would like it changed to 24 inches by 36 inches. Those are all 3 addendums. We just held a public hearing. Nobody spoke. We'd like for the court to adopt each one of these.
I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and second to approve all 3 of the proposed addendums, which one deals with folded copies, one deals with local exception, plat exceptions, and one deals with the size of the survey mylar.
Basically just editing and cleaning up.
Right. This is all tweaking. This is house cleaning. I found out we needed to touch up some stuff. Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.14, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to open and receive bids for the 2023 road construction project. Read bids aloud and refer bids to the county engineer for tabulation and award to the lowest qualified bidder. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you. This is the 2023 road reconstruction project consisting of the reconstruction of Skyline Drive located in Center Point area, Precinct 2. Plans and specifications have been prepared by the county engineer for the reconstruction of approximately 1 to 2.2 miles of Skyline Drive, depending on these bids that we open. We'll see how far we can go. The bid package has been broken down into a 1 mile base bid and quarter mile additive alternates up to a total of 2.2 miles. Precinct 2, what I'd like to have the Commissioner Letts, I believe, is opening the bids, and if he'll read them aloud, we'll scribe everything down. We will double check all the bids. We've got a computer and a laptop. We'll leave and come back to the court later today. Hopefully it won't take us very long to verify the bids, and if we can find a low qualified bidder, we'd like to get that awarded today if possible. Otherwise, we may have to push it 2 weeks from now.
All right, the first bid we have is from Dirt Boys Inc. Out of San Antonio. The 1 mile base bid is $127,785.05. 1 1/4 miles is $151,471.23. 1.5 miles is $175,157.41. 1.75 miles is $198,843.59. 2 miles is $222,529.77. And 2.2 miles is $242,083.53. Next, we have it from Brandon Paving out of Victoria. Base bid for 1 mile is $214,598.87. For 1 1/4 miles is $267,263.51. For 1 1/2 miles, it's $319,928.15. 1 3/4 miles, $372,592.79. 2 miles is $425,257.43, and for the full 2.2 miles is $461,860.79. This is from Fuller Excavation and Site Work out of Bulverde. Base bid for 1 mile is $219,727.05. For 1 1/4 miles is $255,191.78. 1 1/2 miles is $290,656.51. 1 3/4 miles is $326,121.24. 2 miles, $361,585.97, and then for the full 2.2 miles is $390,863.33. Next is from Allen Keller Company out of Fredericksburg. Base bid, 1 mile, $271,009.70. 1 1/4 miles is $320,705.50. 1 1/2 miles is $370,401.30. 1 3/4 miles is $420,097.10. 2 miles is $469,792.90. And 2.2 miles is $510,818.50. Next from J3 out of Comfort. Base bid of 1 mile is $258,605. 1 1/4 miles, $313,464. 1 1/2 miles is $368,323. 1 3/4 miles is $423,182. 2 miles is $478,041, and 2.2 miles is $523,329. This is from LCR Transport. Not sure where they're from. Out of Bulverde. Base bid for 1 mile is $323,826. 1 1/4 miles is $381,912. 1.5 miles is $439,998. 1 3/4 miles is $498,084. 2 miles is $556,170, and 2.2 miles is $604,122. And that's it.
Okay, so we've opened, read the bids. Now we're going to refer them to the county engineer for tabulation and report back to us, hopefully before we adjourn this morning. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is item 1.15, which is a public hearing for revision of plat for Verde Creek Estates, lots 6 and 7. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the court with regard to the plat for Verde Creek Estates, lots 6 and 7? There being none, we will adjourn. Move on to item 1.16, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a plat for Turtle Creek Ranches Tracts 301D1 and 301D2.
Move for approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Hastings, you want to address it?
I like this. This is better. I've already presented this before.
Right.
About 6 weeks ago.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Last timed item for 10 o'clock is item 1.17. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a final plat for Wild Ranch Headquarters subdivision and accept letters of credit number 922-00-111-6952 issued by Cadence Bank in the amount of $495,888 as a financial guarantee for the associated construction improvements. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Judge. This subdivision proposes 25 large tracts. All of them are over 100 acres each, with 2 new private roads. One of them is going to be called Zebra. The other one will be called Exotic. Access to the subdivision will be off of Wyo Ranch Road. A portion of the subdivision is in the floodplain and must meet requirements for development within the floodplain. A preliminary plat for this proposed subdivision was first approved on May the 10th, 2021, order number 38713, and it was extended on May the 9th, 2022, order number 39307. Developer's been working on this. There is a contractor that's been building the roads, so they have a fair amount of the work completed, but the remainder of the work is estimated at $495,888. County engineer requests the court approve a final plat for Wild Ranch Headquarters subdivision and accept letter of credit number 922-001-116-952 issued by Cadence Bank in the amount of $495,888 as a financial guarantee for the associated construction improvements. Precinct 4.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the final plat approval for Wild Ranch Headquarters subdivision and accept the letter of credit. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, skipping down to item 1.20, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action concerning the acceptance of the 2022 Kerr County Sheriff's Office Racial Profiling Report.
Yes, it's just a normal yearly deal. I'm just looking for the court to accept our racial profile report.
I move for approval. Second. Got a motion and a second to approve the Sheriff's Racial Profiling Report. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.21, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a $600 donation from the Kerr County Federal Credit Union for reimbursement of the purchase of 6 Dell 24-inch monitors to line item 72-370-531 to be transferred and paid out of line item 72-752-569. Sheriff.
Yes, sir. I'm just looking for y'all's approval to be able to accept that money and put in those line items.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the donation by the Kerr County Federal Credit Union.
I just wonder, how do you get everyone to donate you money all the time?
We do a good job, Commissioner.
Good answer.
Just don't get used to it. Just don't get used to it.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.22, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the interlocal agreement between Kerr County and San Saba County for jail services. Sheriff.
Yes, I'm looking for y'all's approval to be able to sign this. I had a visit with the auditor just so we're transparent to the public. Our jail counties went down. We normally used to be around 220, 225. We're around 175 to 180. What's happening is Medina County and Kendall County are our two biggest customers. Their new jails are getting ready to open soon, so our county is going down. They're putting less and less, but what we do, we're reaching out to other counties to be able to pick up our jail count. I think with that, in addition with the courts opening up, I think we'll be able to pick back up, but we are monitoring that. So I'm just looking for the approval for the judge to be able to sign this.
So for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the jail contract with San Saba County. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 1.23, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve adding a temporary position of Land Mobile Radio Project Manager for the duration of the communication project. Sheriff.
Yes, this one might take a few more minutes. I'm looking for the court's approval to grant me this temporary position. Kind of explain, we're starting our meetings this week, Wednesday and Thursday with Motorola. Their project manager will be coming down. Wednesday's a half day, Thursday's an all day meeting. They'll be visiting the sites. What we've been talking to the court about, whether it been Motorola or LCRA, is the county providing a project manager for this position. I have worked with HR, it's been very good. The county attorney, we've had several meetings about this. We visited with the auditor and we came up with a temporary position for not to exceed 18 months, or the term of the job. The fees are in here. I am requesting this be paid out of ARPA funds, and we have spoken with Grant Works. I believe it was Lori Gilson. Gilson. This is an item that can be paid for that. She actually recommends it because of such a big project of $7 million, or right under $7 million. Connor will represent us and work with Grant Works on a regular basis. You know, not only is going to be with us, we'll be working with Animal Services, volunteer fire department, and also our constables. So kind of looking for your approval. I think we felt this was the best way to go with a temporary position.
So, to have an MOU with we're on 124, right?
Excuse me?
Item 124? 123. That's why it didn't make any sense. I was looking at the wrong one.
Oh, sorry.
Never mind.
Let's get a motion and a second so we can discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve hiring a project manager for the Sheriff's Communication Project for 18 months, not to exceed 18 months.
I'll make kind of just a general comment. I mean, I've visited with the sheriff and HR a lot about this, is that whether you hire as a employee or as a consultant, and because of the situation, this is cleaner in my mind. We need to have a project manager. That's clear. It's just how we fund it and how we treat it, and this is the easiest way, it seems to me.
So is this a consultant or?
This is an employee.
Temporary employee?
Temporary employee.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the county attorney and I'm looking at the HR director, and I know we have Grant Works approval. I remember some of the early discussions. We got all the problems solved.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good. That's all I want to know.
And the sheriff has worked with us and Grant Works and HR and the auditor's office to make sure
We all
that-
work together.
Yeah, this is the best.
Y'all do the labor pains. I just want this baby.
Temporary.
Temporary employee.
It's
Temporary full-time?
part-time.
No, I believe the title's temporary. Is that
Temporary.
correct?
The reason-
It's temporary because the benefits, you don't have to pay.
Yeah, and it's for a set amount of hours, which is 1,000 hours in that 18-month period. It cannot be exceeded within that time because it's for a specific project for a set amount of time.
That works.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We got a motion for temporary position for project manager for the communications project for the sheriff's office. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I certainly agree that we need a project manager for a $7 million project that's highly technical, and none of us present have a clue about. So I think that's great.
You speak for yourself.
Yeah, none of us here have a clue. Anyway,
I know something about it.
Something. Okay. Anyway, however, I don't like the source of funding for it being ARPA. So
I think I've already
Yeah.
expressed my concerns about the ARPA funding, and I'll kind of leave it at that, and as a result, I'll be abstaining.
Totally understand.
And I just remind the public that this is under the $10 million clawback exception, that we don't have to pay this back no matter what, so it's all good.
Correct, thanks.
Okay, no other discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
So it's 4-0-1.
Yes, sir.
1.24, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to ratify and confirm an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the Texas Department of Public Safety for the Texas statewide inoperability channel plan as required for the Lone Star grant.
Yeah,
Scott Gage.
for Operation Lone Star, the grant that we received, part of that grant on that budget is some communications equipment. There's some radios and outfitting for a patrol unit that's on there, so we just need to enter into the statewide interoperability. We're currently interoperable with the state of Texas. This just extends the MOU it's a condition of the grant that we just need to meet, so just to authorize the judge to sign that MOU.
Move for approval. We got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Open for discussion. Any comments?
Can you explain it a little bit more, Scott?
Excuse me. Yes, sir. So as for our radio communications, so it's just a condition under Operation Lone Star that if we buy communications equipment, that it'll allow the state of Texas radio channels to be programmed into our radios. We currently have that. So it allows that if other agencies that are operating on the operation, they're able to come in, we're able to go to a unified channel to communicate with those. So if some troopers come in, other agencies come in, we are able to go to those channels and operate.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We've got a timed item at 10:45. We'll wait till we get to 10:45. So we'll move on to item 1.26. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the magistrate position. Mr. Lentz.
Put this on the agenda mainly because we talked about it, I don't know, a couple months ago, and nothing ever happened, and Judge Mitchell came to me and said that this really needed to be solved, and found out it was the judges in total were kind of working on it. The biggest obstacle was finding a location and an office for this person, and the sheriff has found an office in his department, which used to be the library, I believe, and that solves that problem. And by, so basically it's on the agenda for us to proceed with advertising for this position. It's in the budget. We're not in, well, we are in jeopardy of not being in compliance with the state mandate, keeping track of all the stuff that goes into the magistrate file. I'll let the judge go over, someone else go into the details of it, but I've talked to Judge Mitchell a lot about it. She strongly feels that we need this position. I think the district judges and county court law judge also think this is an important position because there are some severe liability if we don't keep their files updated of people that are out on bonds.
And the issue was, as I remember originally, was whether or not they could maintain it themselves, the 4 JPs. So, and they thought at first it was a divided opinion, and we waited. So we still don't have a consensus on that.
No. I know
records do have to be kept, and it doesn't matter if we have somebody else, a new person to keep them or not. They have to be kept.
Right.
And that's from the last legislature. We've now got another one 2 years later. They've been keeping the records, though, haven't they? I don't think we're out of compliance in that regard.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't answer that because I don't enter the.
I've been told by the district judges that if we are in compliance, it's by a thread.
Okay.
I'm not telling you that we're not in compliance, but they are treading water as fast as they can, trying to stay up.
Sheriff, where's this room?
Okay, like Judge, I don't know if you remember, it's very territorial to give up space, but I think that was a big issue before.
Sure.
But what we were able to do is the law library. It's now available because now the inmates are given a tablet and law libraries on that tablet. So we've got a nice office door, closes, They're close, so I mean it's perfect. All I can tell you, I mean it has a built-in aluminum kind of credenza. It will need, depending on who's hired, a desk and computer and stuff like that. But it's a good office, closes, it's in there. I think it's a perfect fix for the whole project.
Well, what we did last time when we talked about this was I went out to KCSO and we walked the entire building for the sheriff's office and jail, and then we went across the
Annex.
parking lot and the annex, and we walked that, and Judge Hoyne still wants his extra room.
So it seems to me that, the problem was there was no place
Mhm.
to put the person. And I think there's not unanimous agreement necessarily by the JPs anyway, but there is, I think, more consensus. This is a good idea and needed.
And it's a mandate.
Yeah. So it's gotta be done.
Unfunded mandate. We beat that drum all the time. But, and people ask us what the consequences are going to be, and I have to tell them I really don't know. But the potential is we could get all state funding cut off.
The question I have is I don't know who does the interviewing and the hiring. I mean, it's unclear to me as who this person reports to.
Well, shouldn't the JPs meet on that and decide? Or should the four of them interview this person? Because they're all going to have questions.
Yeah.
The magistrate's going to be a Kerr County employee, and we don't have anybody to supervise them, so it falls to us.
Yeah.
We'll hire.
But for the hiring part of it, I would think that they're going to have specific questions that I know I'm not aware of what to ask them.
Well, they'll certainly be part of the process.
You could get input from them before y'all interview them on a list of questions maybe that they have for this person, but they are your employee.
I'm good with having the JPs sit in on whatever the interviews are and participate actively, and even sit in an executive session with us to help select this person. But the ultimate supervision, the ultimate selection, and the ultimate supervision has got to be right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it having all the people in executive session, but.
Okay.
Judge, we'd be happy to do a background.
Subject
if
to the
y'all
county
want us
attorney's
to.
approval.
Oh, natural.
Well, I guess I'll make a motion that we authorize the HR department to post the job opening. At least get that part of the process going. And, I don't know how many, I have no idea how many applicants we're gonna get for this position. So leave it open for 30 days and see what we have.
It's basically a clerk type position, right?
Yes.
Would the sheriff's department need to have input on any of this, Sheriff?
No, we'll just be working with them just like we do with the JPs. But now, I don't know it's necessarily a clerk. Heather, it's going to be like a magistrate, correct?
Still like a magistrate, I
Yeah.
believe in
Well, it's a
the
bunch of
legislation.
paperwork is all I meant.
And they'll still have to magistrate the people
Yes.
who come, just like the JPs
Yeah.
do and the city judges do. It will be a 8 to 5 position that's there at the jail so that they can do that all day long, instead of what's happening now is they're coming in the mornings and
Yes.
spending several hours of the day there, and that's split between our JPs and the city judge. So they're on a 5-week rotation. So they'll still do that, but they'll be available to do it all day long. So it'll save the county on meals, it'll get people magistrated quicker sometimes and throughout the day, instead of just the 4 or 5 or 6 hours they're doing in the mornings.
Is it needed to be a full-time?
The JPs tell me that it is. And it is the intent of the JPs that they be freed up to do their other judicial duties and not have to magistrate as much as they've been magistrating. So this would be a magistrate, but they will also have the specific responsibility in the job description to do the data input to satisfy this statutory requirement.
That's the part I was talking about.
That's the time-consuming part.
Clerking work.
Right.
Yes.
So there are, the JPs have all said that they do after-hours magistrating. So if this is just an 8 to 5 job, is that going to have, are they going to do it themselves after hours when necessary?
This is hearsay, but I've talked to the JPs.
Okay.
And the JPs see this as, this will be the full-time magistrate, Monday through Friday, that is there at the jail, that will do the day in, day out magistrating. Then they will take over for the after hours and the weekends.
Okay.
And they have their own system of how they rotate who's on call.
Correct.
They'll just maintain that.
But this, when the jurisdiction of JP Court went from $10,000 to $20,000, the dockets have increased exponentially. And so they have a lot of other work that they need to be doing other than just magistrating. And magistrating has become a half-time job for them.
Yeah.
And it really needs to be a part-time, part of their duties.
And I need to correct something I said earlier. The legislation says that the judges of the district and statutory county courts in Kerr County, by unanimous vote, may appoint the magistrate as authorized by the Commissioners Court in Kerr County. So y'all have created the position.
Even better.
Those 3 judges will appoint the person, and then it will still be your employee.
Good.
So it's going to take a
That saves a
while.
little bit of that. And
Yeah.
that saves a little bit of.
So they hire them, can they supervise them, or do we supervise them? Who supervises?
Keep reading.
So
Can it be delegated?
So the authorized magistrate's position can be
we can do that.
eliminated by a majority vote of the Commissioners Court in Kerr County. It feels like they appoint them and they're still a Kerr County employee.
Okay.
It could be, I remember having some conversations about this when y'all were discussing that, and it didn't seem like,
Let me talk to the judges and report back to the court.
Sounds good.
I think if they'll do it, we probably, if we can legally delegate it to them. I mean, as it is now, our district judges supervise Tanya. She's a county employee, in her whole office. So, I mean, there is precedent for that.
Yeah. Well, my motion is just to post it for 30 days, and then we can decide how we're going to handle this part once the resumes come in.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Very good. We've got a motion, a second, to post the magistrate position. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, unanimous. Item 1.27, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the New County website. I put this on the agenda 2 weeks ago. Clint came. I'm gonna keep pushing this until something happens. I have worked with Lisa Walter, who is our part-time PR director, and I know she's conferred with you, Commissioner Ballou. Try to take point for us to head up, making sure we get this website up and running as soon as possible. And I've discussed with her the possibility of being the permanent point person for the court on this project.
That makes sense to me.
I know.
A lot of them fall under her.
Yeah.
Most of the notices, she's the one that's handling. She does the press release. Then let her be the one that makes sure that it gets put up on the website.
I agree.
So that's. I don't know if there's any action to take other than just to, I guess, ratify my request for her to assist working with Clint.
Well, where are we as far as going live?
I think we're stalled in the IT department right now.
Okay.
And we need to get some traction.
We are ready to go.
If you're ready to go and Clint's ready to go, she's ready to go.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, I want the grand opening.
We're going to be raving how great it is in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Good work.
We are ready.
Good work. That's what it was about.
So if they're ready,
Lisa,
what does it actually take to
you
make
don't know
it
what
go
you're
live?
getting yourself into here.
Let her get it done for us.
I mean, but that's a good question. Bruce, when will it be live then?
We're working with Lisa to pick a date, so that all the newspapers can be notified ahead of time.
So within the next week?
Could be.
Should be.
Should be.
She's got to see what all needs to be done, really, and get her arms around it. So,
Lisa, where are you at on the conversation?
I'll defer to Bruce on that. He's the one with the magic keys.
Yeah, we're ready to go. All we got to do is redirect the source of the.
How about tomorrow?
Everyone be forewarned. If we're not up and running by the time we have another regular Commissioners Court meeting, I'm going to be standing and screaming.
We don't want that.
get a good YouTube video out of that.
Gotta think it's time. We put too much time and money into this. It needs to roll out.
I agree.
Without a doubt.
Okay, we'll skip over that one now, for the time being. Item 1.28, consider discuss and take appropriate action to install signs at the county boat ramps that would read, "Use at your own risk." Mr. Harrison, y'all got the lakes.
Well, we've talked with Road and Bridge and looked at it with maintenance and everything, and with the water level down, there's people that we've heard that have had difficulties, maybe damaged trailers and stuff like that. And Commissioner Pace has actually came up with the idea, and I think it's a good idea, to post a sign year-round that says, you know, if you're going to use this, it's at your own risk. Because I've been at boat ramps and watched the comedy capers of people trying to back trailers and stuff, and I don't want to be, county doesn't be liable for people's deficiencies, I'll say. All right. And I think Heather had weighed in as far as what the wording might be. And
It at least puts folks on notice that they're responsible for their own
That's right, absolutely.
deficiencies.
Yeah.
or anything else, even if there's a problem,
Yeah.
you know, from a flood or whatever. Okay? Go ahead.
I mean, we have 3 boat ramps. 2 are in precinct 2, one Center Point, one at Flat Rock Park, and then the other one is Ingram. I personally looked at the 2 that are in precinct 2. They're in okay condition, but the water level's low, and people should be very cautious when they use those things. And they're pretty basic, so, but I propose that we put that sign out there, and I think that'll be a good reminder to the public prior to use that check it out, make sure it's going to work.
Yeah. Is Kelly around the corner? They're still working the bid.
I assume Road and Bridge can make the sign, and then it'll be up to Shane to keep an eye on it and make sure it stays there.
Can y'all do us a sign for
Yeah.
the boat ramp?
Generally, how we do it is, we get how big and the details of it. We send it into our sign vendor.
Okay.
And then they send back for proof and we order the signs. And then we give the bill to maintenance and then it comes directly out.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Who monitors the condition of the boat ramp? Is there any?
Well,
The signs,
No, the sign, I'm talking about the actual condition of the boat ramp. I mean, is there?
Maintenance is the only boots on the ground out there. Really?
I'm just curious, is it, you know, 'cause I've heard that the one at, I think at Flat Rock, that there was a hole that you backed off. And, you know, I don't know if we're under the obligation to.
I'm not sure if it's a hole or they just, once they get to the end of that
It
concrete
goes in the
slab,
mud.
it just drops off.
Right.
Yeah, that I'm not real sure. I think,
Again,
because
use
the
at your
water
own
level
risk.
is so low. that
Yep.
Normally, you would probably not back down that far down that ramp if the water was higher.
Right. So I just wondered is, I mean, if we have boat ramps, even with the sign, are we under any obligation to maintain them at a certain level? That's my question.
Well, last week, Mr. Paces and I met with maintenance and Road and Bridge. And we talked a lot about this, and it's basically, we decided it was maintenance, but sometimes it's over what they can do, and Road and Bridge has pitched in and helped. I know that we've also discovered the possibility of a grant to repair these different ones when they get poor repair, and it's a 75% matching bid, I mean, a grant, so we're in the process of looking into that, I believe, aren't we? And it's with Texas Parks and Wildlife, so hopefully, but.
It's just like other property, the county property, we're required to maintain them that are in a safe way since they're open to the public.
Right.
In this case, it's less about maintaining than, I mean, because the water level's so low, I mean, ideally you might extend the ramp further in, but you know, boy, that would require that grant because it'll get expensive.
Exactly. It would get expensive.
And I'm not proposing that we do that at this stage, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of your alternative.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anything to add, Shane?
So do we have a motion and a second? To put up signs?
Yeah, I move we go ahead and put up signs that say use at your own risk and use the language that our attorney has provided.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next,
I'll send that email to Kelly so she has the sign.
we've got a couple of timed items at 10:45, but let's go ahead and move on to item 1.29, which is a discussion regarding the use, this is not an action item, but a discussion using the Hill Country Youth Event Center for the Eclipse resource storage and other uses. Deb Thomas and I serve on the roundtable for preparing for the eclipse, and we meet once a month, and at the last month's meeting, the question was, are we going to be able to use the Hill Country Youth Event Center as the kind of headquarters for all of the stuff that we've got stored? We're putting pallets of water, trying to get in there. And then we can use the other side for the emergency management coordination for the entire county. But the question here is, can we start storing things in there to prepare for the eclipse? Because we're not going to have enough water. And we're not going to have a lot of things. But we need a place to store them.
This is for the first eclipse?
Both eclipse. First one's the little one, and the second one's the big one.
Because the second one, I think.
In April?
Yeah, I think it's that one, that facility's been used been rented out for a large event already.
For the indoor arena?
I think the indoor arena and the show barn. I think it's all. And I don't want to say who it is, but I think I'm pretty sure that's the event at that time, that it's a big event going in there. But so I would check with Jake.
That event is not going to happen because we're going to have 150, 200,000 people in this town. You're not going to be able to move, much less all in a trailer.
Not all predictions come true, so we don't know how many people we'll have, but if you already have somebody booked, they've paid their deposit and everything, they got it.
I can't remember what it is, and it might be something.
Well, we need to coordinate with Jake.
Yes.
We definitely need to coordinate with Jake, but
And that's basically what it is.
for something as big as the eclipse, if we don't have an emergency management headquarters, we're not using that facility for what it was really intended to be used for.
Well, that is another question, is that Jake has asked, do we want that facility used for viewing or anything?
Right.
As a revenue generator.
Parking and stuff like that.
So, I said, I guess it's a two thing. Is it a emergency, which we get no revenue, which is a good use of it, or should we try to get revenue?
Well, that facility was built for the health, safety, and welfare of the public, especially the youth. And to me, that is the primary function of that facility.
So, we just have to remember that we're taking away a big revenue.
Let's
we do it wrong.
just do some investigation, put this back on the agenda so we can figure out what we're going to do.
The use of that
Maybe we
facility.
use a different facility for emergency response central.
There is not one.
It's a good one. It's really ideal for that purpose.
Well, I know.
But I think that, I think we need to visit with.
Depends on the nature of the emergency, I suppose.
With Jake, let me visit with Jake a little bit about it and get the schedule for both those events, and we can discuss it.
First question I had when we brought this up was, where were you thinking about storing water? What part of the facility?
Indoor arena. I mean, you'd have to.
When would you start doing that? I mean, because we got.
And there's events that are all.
Yeah, but you have the goat barns on the far east side of it that are probably big enough to store as much water as you're talking about. So
Well, this is
facility,
just
the
a
rest
topic
of it.
that has to be, is going to be discussed, have to make some decisions about it.
Yeah, I think we need to get Jake in on the discussion as to the use of that facility.
Yeah.
Period during these two events.
And that'll be during warm weather, so there's all of the outside that you can use. You're talking about it happening in April, so you have the rodeo arena, you have the Riverside Head Park, and all those other places. It's a big area out there.
The maintenance yard.
Hmm?
The maintenance yard.
Other store water?
Yeah, store water, there's places.
Then you gotta move it though. Well, we need to, it's a good
Work that out with
discussion.
Jake.
Yeah, I think we need to have an Eclipse Roundtable meeting.
Yeah.
And get all the right parties together in the same room and thrash some of these issues out.
Well, and I was tasked to ask for permission to use it. So I came to ask, and we have more investigation to do.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Let's defer it.
Okay, it is 10:40, a little past 10:45. First item, we have two timed items here. One is item 1.25, which is an update from the Enterprise Fleet Management regarding their program and current status of vehicles. Anastasia Siegel and Scott Gage.
Enterprise Fleet Services, they're here today just to give an update on what the status of the current fleet is through their management system. Let's take some tomorrow. Did you all get a slide?
Okay.
I'll handle it.
Thank you, sir.
Here, you take it.
All right, Commissioners, Judge Kelly, thank you for having us in today. Good to see you all again. We were going to give a little update on the status of the account with Enterprise Fleet Management. We started the partnership in April of 2021. During a pretty tumultuous time in the world and the vehicle industry. The first handout that you have there in front of you was kind of a status of your typical fleet turnaround on vehicles in pre-pandemic times, 2019, and then the second row there is in 2021, kind of talking about the state of the industry during the start of our partnership. If you move to, if you look at that second line, you can see that national inventory of vehicles was reduced by about a third, or about by 2/3, from 3.8 million vehicles across dealer lots across the country down to 1.2 million vehicles. And then the amount of time it took to locate vehicles shot up dramatically, and then manufacturer lead time builds pretty much tripled across the board. The good news of that scenario is that vehicles were selling for significantly better. So when we looked at the cost of owning a vehicle in the government space using government purchasing agreements, a lot of our clients across the country in the government space were finding that their total cost of ownership and turnover time of operating vehicles without heavy aftermarket equipment was shrinking. Because of high government incentives and an increased vehicle resale market. If you go to the next page on that handout there, you'll see that we're starting to see some improvement across the board in vehicle availability, which is showing its face in the government purchasing state contract dealers. We are seeing a decrease in the remarketing statistics, the sales data associated with the used market. So some of the modeling that we had put in front of you guys back in 2021, as we look into recommendations for 2023, we may be making some pivots on recommended life cycle, looking for different cycle points. But we started our partnership in 2021, focusing mostly on the Sheriff's Department. If you go to page 5 of that handout, you're going to see the fleet planning analysis that we looked at in 2021. We examined the 63 units of the Sheriff Department vehicles and noticed in our number crunching there that the average vehicle in the Sheriff's Department was lasting 9 years before it was being turned over. We did the math based on looking at not just the capital expense, but the impact on maintenance and fuel operating costs, and the ability to recapture equity on the back end of the sale by shrinking from that 9-year cycle down to a 3.73 proposed cycle. You see on the top right-hand side of that spreadsheet there. The impact would end up saving over the 10 years the county nearly $1.5 million versus the way that the Sheriff's Department was currently doing things at the time. And flash forward a couple of years from 21 to 2022, we started having the first vehicles come into play. Again, these were not targeted to take a year to get into the hands of the Sheriff's Department, but with the manufacturer building restraints, it did take upwards of a year for the majority of the fleet to come into service there. But currently we have in the Sheriff's Department 31 vehicles. We have a number still remaining to be delivered, but 31 vehicles when our targeted number of vehicles on lease after the 2022 year was originally set to be 35. So we're on track to hit that number early in 2023 calendar year. And we've expanded the program to other departments as well. We currently have 3 vehicles with Enviro Health and Animal Services, 1 with the Constable in Precinct 4, and then 1 with AgriLife Extension Service. Stacy is your account manager, who's been working really closely with Scott and Sheriff Larry with additional vehicle needs as well as rollouts to other departments. And Stacy, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, actually, I can dig in. So ultimately, I wanted to accomplish today, I'm sure there are probably some lingering questions that y'all have. It has been a really unique 2 years. I've been in the automotive industry for 13 years, and at no point in time has it ever been as volatile and unpredictable as it has the last 2. And I have heard some kind of sentiments that it wasn't a great time to start the partnership, but I can attest more that it couldn't have been a better time to start the partnership. Because as crazy as it has been in the last 2 years, this is all I do. So whenever we wake up in the morning, we manage fleets and we work within the crazy and the chaos. And so as far as what the county has experienced, a lot of those stresses and kind of pressures have been alleviated from y'all, and we kind of put that on our backs. So while I can't promise it'll be smooth sailing, we are hoping within the next year, it'll be model year 25 for vehicles, but calendar year 24. Still waiting to see whether that lands with y'all's fiscal, because we like to keep things complicated. But ultimately, we're trying to just make sure that we are preparing for the next year. It should start to be a little bit softer years going forward. We're starting to see things like the CHIPS Act, which are starting to bring chips back home. That will alleviate some of the constraints that we have of relying on overseas parts, which of course goes right into supply chain. So I say that to say that it has been a little tough last 2 years, but we have fought through it. I appreciate very much Sheriff and Lieutenant Gage, because they have been very patient and understanding, and whenever we kind of hit the rough road, they sit down with us, tell us what we need, and let us figure out how to get them across. Now, with regard to the other departments, if you take a look at, let's see, what page is that? Page 6. What I did was break down for y'all exactly what vehicles delivered within which fiscal year they delivered. I wanted to make sure that we had this conversation today, because whenever it comes time for budget for fiscal 24, we are going to be considering everything that will be landing as of October 1 going forward. We might be ordering vehicles today, but they won't be landing until next fiscal. If something were to land in this fiscal, that's obviously something that we need to bring to court, we'd be able to discuss, but we'll start those conversations. One thing that I wanted to ask the court today, and again, love working with Sheriff and with Lieutenant, but because we now have other departments implemented, we do need to start focusing on one person who can be the contact for the fleet as a whole. Whether that's one of you fine gentlemen or that's someone to whom you delegate that task, it's a little bit easier on y'all's end for us to be able to go to one person. That person can also then give y'all an update for every department. So rather than your agenda items being, here's Road and Bridge, here's AgriLife, here's Sheriff's Department, okay?
No.
Oh, sorry. We have one person who can kind of give y'all an overview of everything. Is that something that y'all would be amenable to?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, mainly because they're they're different departments, and you need to work with those departments.
So
go
ahead.
Yeah, it's the sheriff doesn't necessarily know definitely what AgriLife needs, the extension office, and there's just not a communication. When you come to environmental health and animal control, yes, there's some interaction there, but still, it's up to the animal control department for Reagan to determine what he needs. And it may be a little bit harder for you, but I think you need to continue to work with each department.
It's not so much harder for me per se. Everyone's great. I love working with everybody. It's more for the county budget as a whole. So we don't just look at departments as here's sheriff, here's everyone per se. Let's say, for example, sheriff's department just got a bunch of new vehicles, and maybe there's county budget as a whole. And that's really a good question for me to ask y'all is, does every department remain autonomous within its own budget, or is there an entire county budget for asset replacement?
Well, Scott has been drug into it. Look, you know, because he knows the most about it. And he's the one looked into for different departments and what have you, and the hat's off to you, Scott. And I don't know if people could still come to you, and if I know you're busy, you got a lot of irons in the fire, but so far you've been the point person on this stuff. Is that something you could continue a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think if just working with enterprise, like if when we started going into budget stuff, if we can, you know, enterprise can come down, we can get the department heads that are looking at getting vehicles, sitting down in one room and start looking at that stuff, and maybe one of the commissioners can just kind of be that liaison for the court, and one of those meetings to make sure that we're staying within our budgetary across the county. So.
Yeah, and one thing is, I think one of the things they're looking for too is, I signed for our vehicles, but Judge, I kind of was hoping maybe you'd sign. I mean, I really don't want to be signing for other departments' vehicles. I mean, I don't know how y'all feel. You know what I mean? I'm responsible for mine, but.
Well, technically, I think there's only one person that can sign for any of the vehicles.
Right.
And that's me. And I don't envy that position. But these are all county vehicles.
Correct.
Yeah,
And here, Stacy, part of the problem is the way county government works. And I'm sure you're working with other counties, and you can corroborate that this is the way they created the system after the Civil War with the Texas Constitution. But the county judge is the chief budget officer of the county. And I prepare a budget every spring, and it usually gets out sometime in April. Then I get the input back from the elected officials and the department heads by, May? And then we start the budget process in June. Now, of the county government, we have, believe it or not, 25 elected officials who report to no one except the voters. Now, the public calls me and says, Judge, why don't you talk to this elected official or talk to that elected official, tell them what to do. I can tell them, but they don't do it. And with the department heads, it's important that we maintain, when we delegate to that department head is responsible for the operation of that department. I can't go in and micromanage. We have liaison commissioners to help them and report back to the court. But in terms of how they're going to manage that office, they manage the office the way they want to manage it. And so when it comes to the budget, I get the input back from them on what their needs are. And all of that is done here within the next few months.
Great, yeah, and I guess our case would be, and Scott made a great point there, is that now that there's some stability, say some stability in the car market and the manufacturer's production for model year 24, we're going to be pushing as much as we can for proactivity from the department heads. So getting everybody in a room for kind of like a big mass update on what's happening in the auto industry, some key dates to pay attention to, so that they can properly get the budgets to you folks, would be very prudent for us, because we don't want to do is have you guys decide on a budget that can't be executed on. And that's what had happened a lot over the last 24 months is because of manufacturer cancellations. Stacy's working her butt off to really scramble to find vehicles that were just not available during the time, and finding ways to get it done for you folks. But now that things are getting back to a little place of normalcy, it would be very helpful to get all the powers that be into one meeting.
I appreciate what you want. I'd like to have it too, but we don't have that kind of chain of command.
Would it be possible for me to, like Scott suggested, having all department heads doing one meeting, but possibly having someone from the court join that meeting, not necessarily as a decision maker, but as an ear to hear? because I would like to make sure that y'all are kept informed and involved in all of the decision making, and I want to make sure that if there is something that might come up that perhaps myself or the department heads hadn't considered, that might be, you know, bylaws or budget or any of that, there's someone that's within the five of y'all who might be able to speak to the others to let them know kind of what's going on.
Well, I can't tell any one of them what to do. We have liaison commissioner positions. Now, is what you're in effect asking us is to have a liaison position to help manage the fleet?
No, I would just like once a year, twice a year tops, someone to sit in on the meeting to be able to relay back.
I think that's doable.
I mean, I think it's doable to have.
I'm looking for that volunteer hand to slip up in the room.
Well, and no decision needs to be made on that today. It can be something that we continue the conversation on, because I don't want to get too hung up on it. But I do feel that it would benefit y'all to have someone who...
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so
absolutely.
who thinks what you think to be involved in the
You're preaching to the choir on this. But,
Well, I am not liaison to anybody who has a county vehicle, so I'm going to excuse myself from that.
But I think, I mean, having a meeting, I think what Scott said works. The catch is going to be, it's not approved. I mean, that meeting can be there, but until the court votes on a budget, those vehicles aren't approved.
Right.
So, I mean, the going-in budget makes a lot of sense, but we frequently cut things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and I agree. You know, we give you a budget, and you may be able to perform, and you may not be able to perform, as we saw over the past couple of years. That's not your fault. It just those were the circumstances. So you want to get the horse out in front of the cart here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think just to give you a little more context to what that would look like is the initial meeting of all the department heads and anybody who wants to kind of oversee the proceedings and make sure that we're headed in the right direction with everything would be more of a, hey, here's what we need to be aware of this year. Here's what you guys need to be out in front of as department heads and organizing your budgets. And then Stacy would meet with them individually to go over specific vehicle turnover needs and growth needs that then would get positioned by them to you, Judge Kelly.
Is the market, Stacy, is the market still the same to where, I know you told us before, okay, you can put it in for this, and for some, engineers were a prime example. They put in for 2 and we approved 1, and y'all found a home for the other one. Is that still something that?
We're being strategic about that because things are starting to lighten up with regard, they're starting to improve with regard to availability. So we aren't going as gangbusters with order everything and we'll figure it out, but we are being more proactive in the sense that we are having conversations much earlier about whether or not that budget item was approved. And so typically what we're doing is before they are scheduled for production by the manufacturer, once they're scheduled, they receive a VIN, they are getting 4 wheels and a steering wheel, so they will be a vehicle.
Sure.
So in order to prevent that, we're trying to actually just get ahead of that by confirming what budget is. I know budget won't be adopted till the fall, so really it's having the conversation early, creating that plan. 1 or 2 vehicles, if it doesn't fit within budget, is one conversation. 15 vehicles, if they don't fit within budget, is another.
Sure.
So I say that to say yes, but no.
But the other point, Commissioner, is that in 2022, it was a very tight window that we had to place every order that we wanted to hope to get built. In 2023, they're doing much more of an allocation system. So they're taking the orders, they're kind of sorting them out, and then they're saying, okay, here's what we're going to accept. So the window for when we can place an order is much larger than it was in 22. We had
the vehicles that are
24
arriving
hours on
now, one
Tahoes
day.
last year, which is what we did the bulk of the replacements in the sheriff's office last year, and then half-ton and 3/4 ton pickups for about a week.
Yes.
So this year we're given much different of a grace period by the manufacturers, and that should make those conversations a little easier.
I would recommend that this year, anyway, Mr. Paces go to that meeting. Is it kind of mainly, and not because it's important. I think that it is important for us to understand why we're doing it this way, because it takes some education.
I'm happy to go to the meeting.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to create a new liaison position, I really think it should be one of you two gentlemen that kind of created the idea and who have the experience necessary to guide or lead. But I'm happy to attend the meeting.
Yeah,
I think
it's a meeting. Yeah, it's a different
meeting. I think.
I mean,
Absolutely.
The reason we're doing this, and there's been some analysis as to, was it 3.8 years? Financially, you come out a whole lot better rotating, changing out quickly rather than keeping them 9 years like we used to.
Yeah.
And to clarify, what we're talking about here are departments and offices. We have two, departments and offices that have vehicles, period. And they need to all show up in one room. That's probably gonna be,
Pretty soon.
yeah,
Definitely.
that's probably gonna be
Before the budget
30,
starts.
40 people.
It's only
Vehicles.
yeah, maintenance,
They want
animal
it.
control, environmental health, sheriff,
Juvenile probation.
Who?
Juvenile probation.
juvenile probation,
Charlie will be back.
engineering, road and bridge. So 10 departments actually have vehicles that they.
Yes, and I would say I'm already working with about half of them. And I am about half of my book of business is government clients, so I'm very familiar with the space. So if we need to just stagger it out, I would hate to take all of them away at one time. Ideally, I'd probably plan a day, and then similar to how y'all do your schedule, just stagger it out for each department so I can meet with everyone. So we can do that for budget planning, and we'll work on a date. If y'all can just let me know when y'all need to have budget by, Scott can get back to me on that. Whatever date you need to have budget by, we'll probably plan that about 6 weeks prior. So if it needs to be soon, I'm ready whenever y'all are done. Now, I did want to give y'all an update on the actual delivered units. And you'll see those are the charts that are in green. Again, I broke them down by your fiscal year. So fiscal year 21, we received the initial 7 orders that were placed whenever y'all started the partnership. In fiscal year 22, there were 11 vehicles that were delivered. Now, some of these were factory ordered. Some of these were actually found out of stock. I wanted to make sure to give you guys the ability to know how to read quotes whenever they are coming from us, especially because there's a lot of information packed in there. And there's a specific example I wanted to use because it made it kind of the easiest cut and dry. So if you look at fiscal 22, which was this last, from October to present, we have had 19 deliveries, which is great. A lot of those have come from the advanced ordering. We ordered these May 26th of last year, knowing full well they wouldn't land until after October 1, and that was the goal. So whenever we are having that budget conversation again, don't get too apprehensive about the quantity of vehicles, because we will be making sure they land in the new budget year. But we were able to get AgriLife, EnviroHealth, and the Constable's vehicle all on board. So slowly we'll be adding in the other departments. What we will want to do is start getting complete fleet lists from those departments. To your point, pardon me, Commissioner Lutz, about being able to save money. The best way we can do that is by analyzing the fleet as a whole and saying if there are 20 vehicles total, we should be replacing X number per year at this kind of price range. So we can create a plan. Ideally, in 5 years, this almost operates itself because we will have done all the work up front to know exactly which vehicles get replaced, in what order, you have those critical failures that come out of nowhere that shift things up, but those should be the anomaly. Those shouldn't be the regular. So I'll work with the departments to start getting that on board. I said to say I'll be getting more information in the future that is a lot more data than this. I did want to touch on, if you'll flip the page from that last, our government partnership pricing. This is something that came up with regard to the AgriLife Explorer. And there was a lot of confusion on it, and I 100% understand how there could be a lot of confusion because it is very specific, as most government rules are. So with Enterprise Fleet Management, we are TIPS, TAPS, and Sourcewell approved. We are a state contract vendor. So with that means we are required to honor state pricing at all times. When y'all have an immediate need, pick up the phone and say, oh my goodness, my unit just went down, I have to replace it, and I have to replace it stat. We always start with other state contract dealers because they are required to provide government incentives, they are required to provide the state contract price. If the dealer partner is not a state contract dealer, and there are very few, there are only 4 in the whole state of Texas. So if they are not one of these preferred dealers, they are not legally required to provide us your government pricing. We try to avoid that at all costs. It's a last-ditch effort. That's kind of the, if you need it now, you need it.
And to clarify, if your department head went and sourced the vehicle on their own outright and purchased it under capital budget, then they would not necessarily have to honor any kind of state pricing if it wasn't a state contract dealer. So flashback to the first conversation that we had today was that vehicles were about 1/3 from a national inventory level that they were previously. State contract dealers were as affected as anybody else with that, and the inventory levels available to them were severely diminished. And there were many times where we had a dire need to turn over a vehicle because it was falling apart, at the seams here, where we had a vehicle that was factory ordered at the beginning of the partnership and then canceled by the manufacturer, and Stacy had to take the daunting task of finding a replacement. Well, if we found it at the state contract dealer, then Enterprise passes through the state contract pricing, dollar for dollar, we don't mark it up at all. If we can't go through a state contract dealer, we're still obligated not to change the pricing at all to give you state contract, or to give you the pass-through cost of the dealer, but the dealer's of no obligation to honor any government incentives or invoice costs. So those are some of the frustrations I'm sure that you and your department head saw throughout the last year is, hey, this is a much higher price than we expected, number one, or it's taking significantly longer to get the vehicle.
Not or, both.
Both.
Yes.
Yeah. It's both. It's that the state contract dealers don't have them, and even retail dealers don't have them. When we finally find one, it's not through a state contract dealer, so you get the worst of both worlds. And that's where we want to just make sure that we hope you guys understand, and everybody here understands what will help us put a leg up is getting everybody in a room, all the department heads, to make sure they're ready to put their budgets together. Because if we miss these windows, then you're going to be facing not as bad as what we had the last couple of years, because there's going to be more inventory at state contract dealers. But certainly, if we don't prepare you guys adequately, then you're going to experience some of that heartache again.
With us getting into budget in June, you think a May meeting would work?
Absolutely.
Probably before that.
It'll need to be earlier.
April early, 'cause they need to have-
Open up May, somewhere around May 9th.
Okay.
Generally speaking, and so they would need to have it before then.
Probably late April.
I'm going to recommend we actually have an initial meeting at probably late March, early April to kind of begin the conversation. There are going to be some things they'll need to go back and get in their kitchens and kind of figure out on their end. So I want to make sure everyone has that opportunity. And we typically do this, especially in the government space. We have the initial meeting, get the ball rolling, and then we kind of come back and all gather and kind of fine tune it. And that way it's all ready to go for y'all. But if there's anything that came up between meeting A and meeting B, we're able to kind of fine tune that before it reaches y'all, and that way everything's nice and neat.
But with the department heads that have not gone through this process before or haven't seen the logic behind it, to Commissioner Lutz's point, it's a shift in mindset, right? It's changing what they believe to be the best way to do things. So it takes a while for them to wrap their head around the math.
Okay. Scott, are you good with that?
Yes, sir.
And we'll work on some dates.
I think it's just the department heads have kind of started to look at what their fleet is and saying what their needs are, how old their vehicles are, and start gathering all that information so we can get it to Enterprise so they can start doing their fleet analysis and start getting that stuff on that rotation. So there's just a little bit of work on those department heads to start looking at that.
Maybe Jody, you can send an email out to everybody along with Scott, and y'all circle a date that will work and get the ball rolling.
That sounds good. To wrap up, I wanted to be able to show y'all, with regard to reading the quotes, when you start to see them and as they're coming through, I wanted to make sure that y'all knew kind of where to find the big hitters, the important information that you're going to want and that will help, and this will kind of be our wrap up. If you flip to the page that has two side-by-sides. This was for I used this specifically because it was one unit and it was an easy, clean example. So this is for the AgriLife Explorer. This was originally ordered through the manufacturer. It originally had $6,300 in incentives in this vehicle. So whomever was purchasing this, if they were just a retail customer, they would have been paying closer to about $39,000. Because y'all had your government incentives in there, it was actually $30,989. When looking at a quote, the very top will always show you the year, make, model, which is always important to make sure you're comparing those, because one model year, just from 2022 to 2023, we saw a $6,000 increase in vehicle costs. So if you're looking at a 22 versus a 23, that's something to take into consideration. Also, that unit was a base model, and it was 4x2. You'll see below that in the red box, it says ordered, and then term 48. As court, you'll always want to make sure that you're taking a look at how we ordered it. Ordered means it was ordered through the manufacturer. We put it directly through. It's the least expensive way we can possibly get you a vehicle, and most guaranteed to make sure to get your incentives. However, we are reliant on the manufacturer to come through with that order. So if you just look over to the right, the vehicle they actually ended up taking was a 2022 Ford Explorer. However, this one was an XLT, which is 2 trim levels higher, 4x4, and it was an in-stock unit. So because we got that from a dealer that was not a dealer partner, the cost was drastically different than what you'd anticipated. Whenever I worked with AgriLife on this vehicle, what we ultimately had to do was find out what was your total budget for the whole year, and then let's go ahead and make sure this fits within whatever remaining amount you have left. So we were able to kind of work with the numbers and the term on the vehicle to ensure that we could fit it within the dollar amount that they had set aside. The fact that it came a little bit later did help us with that. But ideally, we are not wanting to purchase vehicles that are, I mean, you can see it went from $30,989 to $46,000, specifically because there was $5,000 of added stuff to the other vehicle. A dealership gave us the price on it that was not a dealer partner. It was 4x4 and a higher trim level. So if you're looking at your quotes, those are the things I really want Commissioners Court to focus on. Below that, I boxed invoice and MSRP. You'll see that in green. This is, if you're looking at it at a glance, you want to compare what invoice is, which is what the manufacturer break-even is, and that's what their cost is just to build the vehicle. And then MSRP is what they are telling dealers to sell it for so that they can make a little profit. Our vehicles with government should always land at MSRP or below. So if you're looking at something that's a factory order, we want it to kind of be within that range, unless we're adding aftermarket, things like that. But I wanted to give y'all the ability to kind of take a look at a quote quickly, and that way if there's something different on it, I believe when this was compared, the question was, is it apples to apples? And yes, it is a 2022 Ford Explorer, but in no way was this an apples to apples comparison. And so going forward, when y'all are receiving quotes and y'all are seeing things come across, this should aid y'all with making sure that you're kind of doing the internal diligence, and if there is an anomaly or something that comes up different later on, you're able to cross-check that. Are there any questions on that?
I guess the only question I have is that when the manufacturer cancels the order, what's your recourse? Like, what else can you do but go find the vehicle if you have to have a vehicle?
That's basically the plan. When the manufacturer cancels the order, the first thing that we do is we check kind of our internal list. Pardon me. Commissioner referred to it earlier, and it's basically vehicles that maybe someone else hasn't taken. We check to see what's available there. One of the kickers, though, is that when a manufacturer produces a vehicle, Ford, for example, is very firm. They will only build a certain number of government vehicles per year, period. Once those government vehicles are gone, they are not offering government incentives at all. A vehicle that was ordered commercial or fleet or retail can never go government. So if we're able to find a vehicle and it's great, it was a retail vehicle, it's the same vehicle, it still might be several $1,000s price difference because Ford will not allow me to re-invoice that and provide you your incentives. So we kind of start with our internals and then we work outwards. We have very good relationships with our state contract dealers, first name basis, cell phone, texting each other. We work very well with them, and their communication has been exceptional in kind of giving us expectation. Sheriff's Department has some Tahoes that are coming in wonderfully, coming in a little sooner than we anticipated. However, it's before next budget year, so now we're having to kind of do some acrobatics, and he's working with me to ensure that we can do everything possible to move those a little bit closer to October 1. And it's working within the system, but to your point, sir, it's if they cancel an order, we basically just rally and figure out how to solve the problem.
Which, regardless of what your plan is, you are still subject to those changes with the manufacturer, with the supply chain, all the rest of it. So you can lay out this plan, we're still going to have these problems as a consideration.
Yes.
You're still subject to that.
Yes.
Yeah, and we do feel really good about our manufacturer relationships. We buy over 2 million vehicles. Not the last couple of years, but usually we buy about 2 million vehicles per year, and manufacturers have some clout behind that, right? But the last couple of years have been a real challenge for everybody in the industry, where we feel we really can help you guys overcome those problems is our manufacturer relationships, the available inventory of our other clients that for whatever reason or another decide not to take a vehicle. And then Stacy and her team work really hard to find you the best possible price when we do have to pivot. But it's all about starting early. That's hopefully a theme that we come away with today, is that if we start late, then there's way less options when things do get canceled that we can go to.
And to that point, there's the saying, man makes plans and God laughs. I can come up with a plan A. These days, I have a plan B and a plan C. Everything that we do, whenever we come up with it, it's here's the ideal. If we have our druthers, here's how it's going to roll out. Ultimately, I would say probably the last 2 years, I haven't had to have my Plan C in place, but I've definitely been using my Plan Bs a lot more than I had to in years past. But we don't just come up with, here's the plan, and then, oh no, what do we do if it doesn't work out? We, because of the industry, have been operating under the assumption of, cross our fingers, here's hoping, this is what we'd like to see, and if not, here's what our Plan B will be. And typically I'll communicate that with the departments and let them know this is kind of what we're having to pivot to, or how we're having to make that adjustment, just to ensure that they're kept in the loop on it, but they also know that they've got someone there with them to help guide them through the process as it gets a little tumultuous.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions y'all had? Anything else I can?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will take the next item out of order is item 1.30, which is discussion regarding a recommendation from Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Wesley Gordon, to put a burn ban in place during periods of inclement weather. Mr. Paces.
Yeah, this goes back almost 2 weeks ago when we had the winter storm coming west. And the county closed its offices, I believe, 3 days due to concerns with weather and ice in particular. And so Chief Gordon sent me an email requesting that we at least consider putting a burn ban in place when we have that level of inclement weather. And so I'll let him go ahead and speak where he's coming from. I can definitely see merits in doing so, although I also think that, I'm aware that we have differing views from other fire departments and their chiefs, and I believe Brian Alexander is here today to possibly also address the court and share his opinions. But anyway, let's go ahead and hear from Chief Gordon first, from Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department.
This is Wes Gordon?
Wes Gordon. My suggestion on it was because of the up and down of the hills that we have in our terrain. Even the Sheriff's Department has busted up some chains in the past years on their two-wheel drive vehicles, and just getting the 3,500 gallon tenders or 1,800 gallon tenders up and down some of them hills could be deadly.
What specifically? What's the objection? The proposed recommendation?
Just for we ran on several calls this last winter because of the landowners did not call in to say, hey, we're doing a burn here. So we're sending people up and down hills that are icy with loaded trucks, taking a chance on that.
But what are you asking us to approve? To do what?
Just put during inclement weather, like the icy storms, to put the burn ban in place.
Right now we do it by precincts, you understand that?
That's right. Yes. Well, that's why I wrote it into Rich Pace as just a suggestion.
I think at this stage, this is more for discussion and awareness.
Yeah.
Because you're correct, absolutely. It's each precinct needs to make the call, and it's just giving this greater consideration when there are icy conditions or any other kind of hazardous condition that would make travel difficult. Do we want to add risk to our volunteer firefighters and their equipment to respond to something that perhaps if we had a ban in place, there wouldn't be a need to? Now,
who's putting the ban in place?
Well, it's still going to be the commissioners. Yeah, I mean, unless you decided otherwise.
Basically,
I think
this is a suggestion.
It's an informational item.
In precinct 1,
yes,
Wes alerted me to the fact that the roads are icy. If you try to get up, for example, up on the Spicer Loop, when there's ice on the road, you're not going to get up there. Right. So there was somebody burning up there. Someone thought it was a fire. They get a call. They can't get up there. So he calls me and I said, okay, I'll put on a burn ban. It's a good idea because I knew those roads are impassable. Right. So then Rich is the liaison for our volunteer fire department. Wes said, it might be a good idea for everybody to do it. Now, precinct 1 has a lot of really steep hills. Some of the precincts don't have as many, but for us, it was pretty important. So we put it on for a day till everything thawed out. Yeah. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a fire that they have to go to. Yeah. It was a suggestion, and
sure. But isn't that a criteria that each one of you consider and decide to ban or not?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I had a discussion with Brian, and Brian, I'm sure, has some input he wants to put, but, a lot of the problems, whether y'all went on a call or whoever, and hopefully our media is listening and we'll cover this, and a request to go out for a little common courtesy. Those phone calls to the sheriff department are your VFDs letting you know they're burning something, because it was the ideal time to burn.
Yeah, sure.
Everything's iced over. I mean, people have been sitting on brush piles for a long time, looking for a good time to burn. And, you know, I think, Brian, y'all went on a call, and the people, you educated the people. They realized they should have called in, and they went out there, and it was a false alarm, you know. Wasn't a burn ban on, she's doing
It's the
right,
same
but
with ours.
who do they know?
Yeah.
Who knows until they get out there? You know, it could have been a structure fire or what have you. Brian, you have something you want to give us your input on?
Well, I might educate somebody on the media too. So the problem with if you put a burn ban during an ice storm, per se, the law states that in order to keep you warm or feed yourself, you can burn. So 2 years ago, we had 19 days no electricity. We had people burning to keep yourself warm and cooking. So you put a burn ban in place, that doesn't mean they're going to follow it. So the biggest problem, and I had a discussion with the sheriff a couple of days afterwards, is educating people to call in the sheriff's department, because several of us departments were sliding around trying to get to these calls that we shouldn't even went to. Sheriff's department, same way. People need to be accountable for their own, you know, call in, say, hey, we're burning. But people don't do that. I don't disagree with what Wes is saying, because we wreck a truck for somebody burning. I mean, that's the cheapest is $160,000. So you kill somebody that gets hurt, there's nothing for somebody burning. So, but on the other hand is people going to follow the rules?
Sure.
We all know they probably won't. I'm just like burning at night. There's a law about burning at night, but like me and Sheriff talked about, they have to prove, just like they would have to prove or write a ticket if they were trying to keep herself warm or feeding herself by cooking outside. So it's a touchy subject, but you know, I know Bandera has an ordinance that if you don't call in and they get called out, you get a ticket. So if they don't call the sheriff's department and tell them that they're burning, they get a ticket. I don't know if that's something y'all want to look at, but not only just at ice storms, but any time. I mean, you know, we have a plume of black smoke, you know, going. We treat every call mainly as possibly a structure fire. So, you know, just because it's at night or day or whatever, it doesn't matter. We still consider it as it could be somebody's home or whatever. But I do think that the citizens do need to do their part and call in the sheriff's department and let them know that they're burning. And that would solve probably a lot of the problems that we have. Now, are they going to do that? Probably not. Right. So, like I said, I know Bandera has an ordinance, if that's something y'all want to consider. But like I said,
They don't have an ordinance in the county.
No.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
No, but they might
have a
find
court
it. Yeah, and that'd be something the sheriff could pick up if you wanted to do that. I think Lisa's probably jotting notes down. I think we could do a press release and try to educate people that even maybe on our burn ban, on our new website,
Right.
where it says burn ban, please call in. You know,
That would certainly help. You know, one of the big problems is it's always a neighbor or somebody who sees a plume of smoke from a distance. They're not aware of whether it's out of control or it's just a pile that's burning that, you know, the owner is monitoring. But once that call's made, somebody's got to respond to it, and the BFD is going to roll. And do we want to do that in icy conditions? I can't even get off my hill when it's iced up. So in terms of my responding, I can't.
Sure.
But yeah, common sense would go a long way, and for people to call the sheriff's department so the dispatch is aware that they are going to be burning, that would be a huge help too, I'm sure.
Right. I think, well,
I think
nothing else, bring this up, it educates people.
Yeah, and I'll recommend
Get the word out.
to Brian and Wes that they bring this up for discussion at the next CARPA meeting, and kind of see if there is greater consensus from the fire chiefs to see if we should do anything different. But I guess at this time, we probably just need to leave it up to the commissioners to decide when it's appropriate to put a burn ban in for each of our precincts.
Well,
let's
conditions do
put it in
vary
context.
widely across the county.
Let's put this in context. Like the helicopter. Let's get the bird's eye view here. The Commissioners Court has authority to put burn bans in place. And that authority has now been delegated down to the individual precinct commissioners.
Some counties, it's all, whole county.
I understand. I understand.
Most
I understand. But Kerr County has chosen to delegate to each commissioner for each precinct, which for Kerr County, because of our configuration, we're long, thin county, and the weather's completely different on the west side of the county as it is on the east side of the county. I think we've got a good system. I'm not ready to change that. I like being delegated to the commissioners. Now, I don't believe we've got the authority to delegate it down below that. So the commissioners are going to make the call.
And that's fine. To me, this was more awareness.
Right.
But whatever we can do to educate the public would
I'm
also be
landing
good.
my helicopter here.
Yeah.
So we go down to the commissioners. Each commissioner has your own internal criteria that you use to decide whether to put the burn ban on or not. Inclement weather is one more criteria. Okay, and I think it's a good criteria. But other than that, we don't have ordinance authority. We establish policies. We cannot pass ordinances. So I don't know what you're asking us to do that we can do. That's where I'm coming from. What more can we do?
I think he's
Well,
asking us to consider it.
As a criteria.
Yeah.
Yes, but I want to add something to what Brian said, and that's this. You guys put out signs that say burn safely or burn ban on, stuff like that. You can also educate the public, coming from you saying, call the sheriff's department before you burn. A real simple message like that at every volunteer fire department is going to be helpful. And when you send out the fundraising letters and any other time you have contact with the community, if you just reinforce that, it takes people a while to get it. And we got new people coming here all the time. I get calls, I'm sure the other commissioners do. They ask me all these questions about burning, and if they're from some other place, they're shocked and startled that you can just go outside and burn your trash. So they don't know anything about it. In other words, they got zero background on it, and they're new people all the time. Even people that have burned for years may not think to call the sheriff, and just to give them heads up. It's just a courtesy, but you guys have as much, you have more authority with the general public than we do. In that regard, that's your area of expertise.
Sure. But we can utilize our website, and if we want to issue a press
Yeah,
release.
but I'm saying it doesn't all just fall to one or the other.
I agree.
These guys they touch the public all the time. When I drive past that sign and I see that it says burn ban or burn safely, I see it every time, and so does everybody else.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was also going to suggest, and I'll add it to the verbiage that I put on the burn ban hotline. I don't know that anyone listens past the first 3 lines, but I can certainly add that too, to, if you choose.
I hang on every word. I do.
I'll wait till they end.
I hear a dial tone before I hang.
So I'll add that also. And I don't know if it'll help, but it certainly won't hurt.
Every little thing. Okay.
We're very mindful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back. Let's be back at 11:45. Let's try to get them back.
Yep.
Okay, court is back in session. Let's pick back up on the agenda. It's item 1.31, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a contract with Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Department. This is routine. We do it every year.
Yep. I move that we approve that contract with Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Department.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Well, 3. The quorum can see it. 1.32, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to change the job title for Noel Putnam from grant administrator to grant coordinator. Ms. Grinstead.
As you know, we created this position the end of 2021. We hired Noelle. She's doing a great job. So we don't want to change any of the job description. We mainly want to change the title from grant administrator to grant coordinator. She'll still do everything she's doing now, coordinate researching the grant, help write the grant, help apply for the grant, make sure everything goes to court the way it should be. She just won't be administering any of those grants. Basically, it's going to be up to the department that requested the grant to do any of the required reporting. So basically, we're wanting to do this. We want to change her title just to better define her process, or her role in the grant acquisition process.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve changing the title from grant administrator to grant coordinator. And I can echo, because I've been in the epicenter of this thing, the administration part needs to be the people that are actually applying for the grant. So with that, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Did y'all do 31?
Yeah, we did.
You
We
missed it.
approved the contract.
Okay.
So when they call you now, Noel, you say you're going to need to speak to the grant administrator.
Yes, definitely.
That's all she has to say. And let them wonder who that is.
We've learned a lot.
Have a good day. Hang up.
We have learned a lot this past year.
We have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to stay up for the next one too, just because
Okay.
we talk about the workshop.
This is 1.33, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to require elected officials and department head and their designees to attend a grant workshop if they intend to apply for grants. The grant workshop will be scheduled for March the 6th at 9 a.m. Ms. Grinstead.
And mainly, we just wanted to put this on there. I know they're all elected officials, but everything's got to come through court. Noelle's been working on a presentation, basically to go over a grant from beginning to end, the requirements, who's involved, who needs to do what, and we just want all department heads and elected officials and their designee, if they plan to apply for a grant, that it be required that they, if they want her assistance, that they go through that grant workshop to better understand the process.
What we've learned is we need to have the people that are seeking the grant more invested in the process and not just drop it off on Noel's desk and walk away. So,
Well, I move for approval.
second. Got a motion and a second to approve the grant workshop for March 6th. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
And I'll send out an email to the elected officials, department heads, and it's going to be in here. It'll be a commissioner's court workshop, so all of you are involved as well.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
1.34, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to determine whether to allow the retail fireworks permit holders to sell fireworks to the public in celebration of Texas Independence Day. We do this before every holiday.
Well,
This is one that we have to proactively say to do it? Or do we have to proactively say if we don't want them to do it?
You know, and talking with Thomas Jeffers over there with the church that does the big one in Ingram, he said, we don't even mess with it. There's not enough business for them at this time of year. And
But this is one that we have to proactively permit it.
That's right.
Otherwise, they can't do it.
That's right.
Okay.
So let's just pass.
Okay.
We passed that one. Item 1.35, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to permanently appoint Rosa Hernandez Sanchez to the Kerr County Human Resources Director position.
Move for approval.
Second.
Third
Any
board.
discussion, observations? Well, I do. You're a very quiet person, and that can be mistaken for, we don't know how much you know. And it took bringing Carmen in to open you up so we can see we've got a jewel here. And we are very pleased to have you as our new HR director.
Well, I tried to get her to apply for it originally, and she didn't do it. So I'm fussing at you a little bit, but I'm proud of you.
So now we're going to make it official.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1.36, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set a workshop regarding the Kerr County on-site sewage facility rules. And what this is, I know Commissioner Letts and I have talked about this. We have now completed our revised subdivision rules. And the OSSF rules that we have in place are the bare minimum state standards. It is time for us to take a look at these rules and revise them, make them reasonable, but at the same time, this is the only we have two tools in our toolbox with regard to developments: subdivision rules and OSSF rules, wastewater rules. And so we need to make sure that we've got the rules in place that we want going forward. And we need to have a workshop to discuss it. I've talked it over with the department head, Ms. Batters, and I think she and I are in agreement that let's take a look at it. So,
When are we gonna do it?
I don't know.
Just stack it into another one. Are there gonna be a lot of changes?
Well,
it depends on the court, on what y'all decide, but I'm assuming we would
Are
like
you
to have some
recommending a lot
input.
of changes?
Pardon?
Are you recommending a number of changes?
A few, at least 2 or 3.
That's not bad.
And I'm sure a few of our OSSF professionals would like to attend as well, so.
Well, if nothing else, I think the public expects us to review these things periodically and make sure that we've got the ones in place that we want.
Sure.
And right now, we know we're at the very minimum, so why not take a look and see if there's some other things that we can use that would improve the overall health, safety, and welfare of the county.
Agreed.
So, as to dates, I propose that we just go ahead and approve the workshop and then get with Jody and we'll coordinate dates and set it.
Perfect.
So I'll make a motion that we go ahead and set a workshop regarding the on-site sewage facilities rules.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. 1.37, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action and to approve and accept the annual report on the county clerk's investments as it regards the registry accounts of the county court to comply with the Texas Estates Code. Ms. Dowdy.
Yes, this is standard procedure, and before you should have a letter of just the numbers of the monies that I hold in the registry. I have 2 active accounts right now, and I'm just required to report those numbers to you, and I believe they are going through audit as well at the same time, so you'll get 2 reports. I mean, basic, standard audit. So I'm just requesting, accepting the report.
Move for approval.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve the annual reports on the registry accounts for the county court. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. There you go. Thank you. Item 138, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to offer animal services vehicle as a trade-in for a new property on the same general type per the local government code. Michelle?
Yes, this is the trade-in for the vehicle that the Enterprise Fleet Management has found for the animal services. I believe this is the last one they were waiting for.
I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. 1.39, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set a workshop to discuss current election process. Mr. Paces.
This is a result of a legislative briefing that was held in Austin on January 24th on election integrity. And this was kicked off by Senator Bob Hall. It was actually a 5-hour session. but they had 5 cybersecurity experts presenting information about the ease at which voting machines can be manipulated despite claims that they cannot be connected to the internet or that they've been certified for use by various government agencies. So several of our constituents attended the legislative briefing, and they may want to speak. But of course, they brought back some very serious concerns. I've viewed the briefing and a number of other materials that are available on texasfirst.org website. And this is a group that kind of sponsored the legislative briefing. So, you know, I too am appalled at how easy it appears to be to manipulate voting machines, as was demonstrated in that briefing. Now, I'm not overly concerned about fraud having occurred in the past here in Kerr County, and I make no such accusations, but I do believe it's incumbent on this court to do all we can to ensure that our local elections are secure, transparent, and accurate, so that our voters have the confidence that their votes will be counted fairly and accurately, and so that they will continue to participate in one of our most sacred democratic duties, that of voting for our elected officials. That's why I am moving that we hold a workshop on election integrity, wherein we can explore how Kerr County currently executes the election process, understand the system vulnerabilities, and then make informed decisions on how to improve, if necessary, our election process to ensure that it's secure, transparent, and accurate. So that's what I'm proposing, that we just hold a workshop where we can then get into the details. And I have lined up 2 of the same cybersecurity experts that testified in Austin, and they are willing to attend the workshop. And hear directly from them.
You, is that a motion, or I mean?
He said
Yeah, I
he's
made a
moving.
motion. I move that we hold a workshop on election integrity.
Second. I mean, I don't think there's any
It
problem.
won't hurt anything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, help us to understand it better.
So we've got a motion and a second to hold an election process workshop.
I guess, and it's your motion, your idea.
Yep.
The format, I mean, I think that, yes, it's great to have outside people come in, but I think we need to have either Bob Reeves or Nadine explain our process, and it's good for us to know exactly how it works.
I 100% agree. I've met with Bob a couple times, and we've talked about it, and you know, he's reasonably comfortable with how it works now. But despite that, this is about assuring the public
right. So,
that we have a good system, and if we don't need to do anything different, great. Let's come back and conclude that. But if we do, then this court can make whatever decisions it can make within the state law to help remove the vulnerabilities or address the vulnerabilities.
Well, we've got a motion and a second, so this is the discussion part. And I know Ms. Bell signed up to speak. Did you want to speak?
There's a few of us, but, if you're gonna vote now, that's fine. We'll talk about it during the.
Well, this is the discussion part. We have a motion and then it gets seconded and then we discuss it.
Kitty Oker signed up to speak.
Okay.
Kitty Oker.
I live in Kerrville, and for the past several years, I have led the election integrity focus group. For
Just state your name, please.
Oh, Kitty Oker.
I don't have an application, so.
I signed in this morning at 8:30.
Well.
It might be, there's 2 different sheets.
It's okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. For the past several years, I have led the election integrity focus group in Kerr County on behalf of We the People. In that capacity, I attended the workshop that Commissioner Pace has referenced, and the cybersecurity experts who do things like work for the Department of Defense, work for NASA. They are experts, absolutely experts. And they demonstrated how simple it is to alter the outcome of an election with a machine, even if it is not connected to the internet. And I know that ours are not. It was stunning. Mark Cook, who is one of the presenters, and who has agreed, I believe, to come to Kerrville. He asked if anybody in the audience would volunteer their cell phone. And he took a cell phone and gave a couple of commands to the gentleman who provided it, and it flipped the numbers. It flipped the numbers. It was absolutely stunning. And the question was asked, would these manipulations be possible using heart machines, which is what we use in Kerr County? And the answer was yes. There was a case, and I have a video, in Mesa County, Colorado, where the election administrator was straight as an arrow. She did everything by the book, just like Mr. Reeves and Nadine do. But they had a local election in Mesa, and the expected outcome was totally upside down, and she was accused of fraud. She was just anguished about the situation, and she received a very unsettling visit from the FBI, who destroyed her front door, went through some of her property. It was just a nightmare of a situation. These gentlemen who presented came to to Mesa, investigated the situation, and determined that the machines had been manipulated. And that's a true story, and I can send you the video if you'd like to review it. I would strongly suggest and urge this body to at least look into the situation, see what the issues are, hear from these gentlemen who I believe have agreed to come to Kerr County, and see what they can do and how simple it is if you have a bad actor. The 2024 elections are coming up. They're going to be here before we know it, and parties are out to do whatever they can to win at all costs. So I would strongly urge you to at least have a workshop, hear from the experts, and see what they can do, and then decide where to go from there. And I appreciate your time.
What was your name again?
Kitty Oker, O-C-K-E-R.
And I'll just throw out that one of these experts, a gentleman by the name of Clint Curtis, was a Republican. This goes back a while in Florida, and he was asked by a Republican candidate if he could generate software that would manipulate an election. He said, sure. Well, they did that. Republican won, and now Clint is a Democrat because of that. But despite that, he has testified in a number of areas and assures me that even when a machine can't be connected to an internet, he is a very competent hacker and programmer. And the fact that once it's plugged in, he can probably get in. So it's interesting. This is not a partisan issue. It affects everyone who votes and wants to trust in our democratic process to have a fair result. So I'll leave it at that.
We've all heard of some that flipped or very highly suspiciously flipped. You know, there was a council race in Austin a few years back that everybody swears up and down. You know, some kid in pajamas in grandma's basement changed 100,000 votes. You know.
Well, let me
It's
just
worth
say,
looking into.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I feel good about ours. Somebody's been involved with a close election. I mean, I feel good about ours. I wish we could mandate
just because he won
Austin and Dallas and Houston and San Antonio, those places to do the same.
Are the machines Bluetooth? Is that how they hack them?
Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So if they're not, you gotta have Bluetooth at least to hack something.
No, you don't. You plug some kind of a USB drive in there that can have malicious software on it. We need to hear from these guys, but they will tell you.
Well, I always vote with
about
paper
the
ballot,
countless.
so I don't know what I'm talking about.
But even that paper ballot has to be scanned by a machine, and then the tabulated, reports that. There are a lot of places where votes can be manipulated. But I encourage the court to approve the workshop and hear from the experts. I'm certainly not an expert.
Oh, I'd like to hear it.
Okay.
My concern is that we have an elections department. And I'd like to hear from them before we start bringing in outside experts to tell us all the horror stories out there. I have no doubt that there's ways to manipulate votes. I don't know what they are. But if we're going to have a workshop, are we going to bring in a bunch of people from Austin that we don't even know? Are we going to listen to Bob and Nadine tell us first? And if we're going to bring in experts, I would look to them to have recommended experts.
Yeah.
Frankly.
I think we certainly need to hear from Bob and Nadine, but we should take advantage of these people, and these are the guys that kind of created the controversy and have people seriously concerned. And again, I remind the public that you can view the whole briefing. It's available on texasfirst.org. See for yourself.
I think the other
We'll hear more of the same.
person, well, we've already said earlier that Bob and Nadine, but I think that we also need to have, if possible, Bob, a representative of Park Graphics, because that is, it's their machines.
That's fine.
I just want to add one more comment. Following the 2020 election, where there was a lot of publicity about alleged fraud and elections stolen and all that stuff, Seth Ketchel came to Kerrville, and I don't know if you know who he is. He is formerly with military intelligence. He has done data analysis on all 50 states. He came to Kerrville at the request of one of the organizations here, and I had the opportunity to visit with him for just a few seconds before he went on to do his program. I asked him about Kerr County because I was interested in the voting process, and he pulled up some data on his phone, and he told me that there were approximately 1,000 fraudulent votes cast in that election. I met with Nadine. She may or may not remember, but Nadine and I met about it, and we both agreed, we can't believe this, we think it's made up. Having seen the presentation and witnessed it in Austin just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I now see how that could happen easily. It just takes a bad actor.
Quite frankly, my concern is that if we're going to have a workshop, and I'm in favor of having a workshop, but we don't want it hijacked by political action groups. What we want is experts. And I want to look to my elections department to make the recommendations as to who's going to talk to us about this stuff, and not what we the people recommend. Because now we're getting political. And if we got an elections problem, then I want to look to them to help get us informed and solved.
Yeah. These individuals aren't recommended by We the People or any other action group. They're just two of the individuals that participated in the Texas legislative briefing.
Well, it's Senator Bob Hall.
And well, it's under.
And Terry Hall's related to him, right?
No, I don't think she is. But anyway.
Bob, you have anything to add? Or are you sorry I asked that?
No, I was going to say, Commissioner, I've been in a very close political race myself, so I know where you're coming from.
And for those of you that don't know, he lost by 3 votes.
To him. With that said, our office welcomes to hear. I think it's good to get out and express concerns as well as what we have to follow and what we have to do. We work very close with IT on theirs, but as we all know from a county standpoint, we don't make the laws. They make them in Austin and they roll downhill. So we do our best to follow them, but I welcome a workshop. Nadine does as well with that. And as I've told in emails that I've answered, as well as Commissioner Pace's, we're open to suggestions. We're open to work as long as we're in compliance with the laws, because it's not a Kerr County law, just as what I do with motor vehicle, what I do with property tax are not laws passed by Kerr County. They're passed in Austin. And on the election side, it even goes further than Austin that we have to follow. So I welcome a workshop where we can look and you can understand, especially the court as well as the public, what we have, what we're following, and what we've seen.
But if we're gonna have an election workshop, should you be the one preparing the agenda for it? Or what we're gonna talk about? And who we're gonna bring to talk
I'll
to
be
us?
glad to work with whoever you want me to, Judge. I will be glad to.
Well, I want to look to the county department head to lead this workshop.
Then all I would ask is at least have some outlines of what y'all would like to see. You five up here, what y'all would like.
I will be happy to work with.
I would like to see it
these
from
people
all
on this.
five, with all due respect, Commissioner, but because they may have something you don't have. If we're going to do it for education, if we're going to do it for making, previous speaker, one of our greatest fundamental rights more secure, I'm all for that. But as I've said, we need to understand that a lot of things we can't change at 700 Main Street.
Well, Bob, if we're going to have a workshop, I want you to tell us the process that we do, what we're doing.
I will be glad to present the process. I will be
Before we
glad
start
to
criticizing
work an outline. As you asked earlier, when do we want to have this workshop? I'm not trying to push it down or kick that can, but
I think in the
we're in the
next
middle of
2-3 weeks, we should try to do it.
several other things, and 2 weeks I've got to be in Frisco and Plano with our software provider for 3 days for property tax. So just remember, I've got several different departments.
Well, we've got a number of these workshops that we're trying to get scheduled, so
Why don't you-
we'll put it on the list with the others.
You present,
Tell us when you're not available.
show us some dates that you think might be appropriate and share them with Jody and then, maybe we can select one and go
Would
from
we
there.
prefer that it be on one of the off weeks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That gives me a look where I can do it, and I'll get with Ms. Grinstead and work on that. And
Sometimes we can work in other times.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
as,
have to be on
as
Monday.
something to think about, we always know we've got that first and third Monday that we don't have Commissioners Court. So we keep that spot available.
I'll be glad to work on those and get with her on dates. And as I said, I'm leaving, if we can get it out, what we're doing, why we're doing it. Not only will educate the public, it will educate the court as well.
Good.
Very good. So you've got a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Any further questions or comments? Okay. Those in favor of scheduling a election process workshop, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll put that on the list. Item 1.40. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve environmental impairment annual liability renewal application for Highway 27 in Ingram. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, this is just the renewal for the fuel tanks that we have in those 2 locations.
Yeah, this is a standard, we do it every year.
Yeah, it's a
I
standard.
move for approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve providing the annual liability renewal application for the storage tank. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to item 1.41, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to renew the ACA reporting and tracking service program agreement between Texas Association of Counties and Kerr County. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, this also is a renewal for the ACA. It reports the insurance for all of us when it comes time to do the taxes. TAC actually keeps up with that for us and sends out the letters for us as well.
This is new.
No, it's been something that we've done for, well, I know for at least a while, actually.
That's pretty specific.
They've been, I don't know, I haven't seen how far back it's been, but I do know that it's been at least the 2 years that I have been here, because I've received it myself.
I thought I remembered seeing this.
Yeah, they send it out, and you use it for your taxes. It was something that was implemented when they did the Affordable Cares Act, and you had to report it on your income tax, saying that you have been covered through the insurance for the whole year. If not, then they penalized you for it. So I know.
I move for approval.
Okay.
I remember that.
Yeah, second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the, to renew the ACA Reporting and Tracking Services Program with TAC in Kerr County. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're batting 1,000 here.
Oh, that's the one we've been looking for.
1.42, consider discuss and take appropriate action to modify insurance coverage for the Kerrville, Kerr County Airport.
I'll need to go to executive session.
Can we talk about that in executive session? And then, Charlie, you're reporting back on the bids.
Yes, sir. That was item 114. We did tabulate all the bids. We didn't find any errors in the bid tabulations. Everything seems to be in order. We would like for the court to accept all of the bids and then refer the apparent low bidder, Dirt Boys Inc., to the engineering department so that we can do some research and make sure that we've got that they're qualified to do the work. And we would report back at the next commissioner's court if they're qualified and make a recommendation to award to whoever's qualified, whoever's the lowest qualified. But at this time, we can't make that determination.
I so move that we accept the bids as submitted and that we refer the matter to Kerr County Engineering to further evaluate and get with Dirt Boys.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to accept the bids and refer them to the engineering department and report back to us. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, we're going to adjourn and go into executive session.
She has something.
One more item that I'd ask y'all to recall is item 1.26 on the magistrate's position.
Okay,
The statute says that the Commissioners Court may authorize the judges of the district court and statutory county courts in Kerr County to appoint the magistrate to perform the duties under that subchapter. And y'all authorized posting of the position, but in order for that authority to be clear, it would be good for y'all to go ahead and make a motion and have a court order authorizing them to appoint someone to fill that position.
Wes?
Before or after a candidate, now, go through the chronology.
So they'll do the interviews after HR gives them the applications and resumes, and they have to make that appointment. It has to be a unanimous vote by the district judges and the county court of law judge. So the three of them will participate in that process.
question. Don't we have to formally delegate that authority to them and then they take over and do it?
That's what she's asking.
That's what I'm asking y'all to do, so that they have the authority by court order.
So, but still, I'm at, do we hire this person and then say you guys are in charge of this person, or they're part of the process of deciding who this person is?
They are the ones who decide who the person is.
Okay.
If we delegate it to them.
Which we can do beforehand.
That's what she's asking us to do.
Which is what I'm asking you to do. They are the ones who get to decide. Y'all have created a position and funded it and authorized HR to post the position, but they're the ones that the legislature has said. Kerr County can do this, and they authorize those judges to make the appointment.
So we just do it, and if we do it, they're the ones that interview.
So should we be courteous and ask them about that, confer with them first?
Oh, no, I've talked to them.
They want it.
They're ready to go.
They are 110% on board.
All right. Well, then what's the motion now? Do we rescind this?
No, I'll make the motion. I move that we delegate and we delegate to the district judges and the Kerr County Court of Law judge and authorize them to post the job position for the magistrate that we've discussed and said earlier, and that they be authorized to hire the magistrate after the job's been posted and the applications have been submitted.
Second.
So, we've got a motion and a second for the district judges and the county court of law judge to do this.
And we have a salary.
Yes.
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
There's a limit on this.
It's already in the
trying to
budget.
remember.
It has to be the
same
base
as-
salary of
yes.
the JPs,
Right.
and y'all have already approved, I believe you've already approved the job description that posts the salary as well.
I didn't remember what it was. I remember the.
It had to be the same as the JPs. We put it in the budget.
You wanna know?
Huh?
Yeah.
$61,714.28.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor of delegating the magistrate issue to the district judges and the county court of law judge, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Now we're adjourned and go into executive session. The next item is 2.1, budget amendments.
Yes, today we have 4 budget amendments. I make that 5. Ooh, how about 6 budget amendments? We've got 3 pages. The majority of these are going to be line item transfers. 3 of these deal with the airport, and the airport board has already approved them, and they are within the interlocal agreement requirements on the amount of money that they can transfer. So those are more just for your information. And then on the last page, this is bringing in the budget for the Operation Lone Star grant for the sheriff's office.
For approval. Okay, second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the budget amendments as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 2.2, pay bills.
Yes, invoices for today's consideration, $3,236,824.39. These are higher than normal because this is the one where we approve all of the principal payments of the loans and the interest. They're due, most of them are due on the 15th of the month.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 2.3, late bills.
Yes, $667.50.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the late bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Auditor reports,
There are not any.
then monthly reports.
Yes. For December 2022, Treasurer's Monthly Report, Tracy Sullivan. For January 2023, Environmental Health, OSSF, Director Ashley Batters. Auditor's Monthly Report, Hannon Shelton. Veteran Service Office, Jenna Sanchez. Constables, Precinct 1, Tommy Rodriguez. Precinct 2, Kyle Snyder. Precinct 3, Paul Gonzalez. And Precinct 4, Brad Ryder. Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, Gerard Horn. Precinct 3, Kathy Mitchell. And District Clerk, Dawn Lance. I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the monthly reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Court orders.
Yes, we have the court orders from our January 23rd meeting, numbers 39766 through 39802. There's a slight change on 39795. It currently read pro rate distribution and should have been pro rata distribution. Just made that correction. So with that correction, move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Moving on to item 3.1, status reports from department heads. Okay. Moving on to 3.2, status reports from elected officials. And 3.3, status reports from the, oh, she's got one.
Sorry.
Good. No, that's good.
3.2, I have my new records management system. The live date is tomorrow. So we are ready for recording land records into and our vital records into the new system as of tomorrow. And so the conversion for our older records, it's going to take another several weeks, probably by the end of March. So anything newly recorded will be able to be searched in the new system, while the back date will still be used in the old system. But anyway, getting there, and I'm excited about it, and so is staff. So I just wanted to make that report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. 3.3, status reports from liaison commissioners. Okay, we'll be adjourned and go into, we'll recess and go into executive session. coming out of executive session. And the item 5.1, action as may be required on matters discussed in executive session. Are there any motions?
I'll make a motion that we authorize HR to modify the insurance coverage for the Kerr County Airport as recommended by the airport board.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. With that, we are adjourned.